across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, very good morning to you. This is Talk. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company. There's an awful lot to talk about between now and 1 o'clock, and then I'm off for Christmas for a week, but back on the 29th, Monday the 29th, with the mid-morning show. Lots to discuss, as I say. Kemi Badenoch closing in on Nigel Farage, a poll is found, but Reform and the Conservatives combined still only left with a horror coalition, some are calling it, of parties on the left. We'll talk about the migrant drug dealer who grouped two women. He's been allowed to stay in the UK. We'll find out why. And also the majority of Jews do not feel safe in Britain. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about panic at the shops because Rachel Reeves is about to make Christmas their last. Lots of businesses closing. If you're a small business or owner or a retailer and you want to get in touch, you're very, very welcome, although today you may well be a bit busy. We'll talk about a furious landlord banning Rachel Reeves from her local pub over the Chancellor's tax hikes, crippling the hospitality industry. Business rates are a big, big thing coming in from April. We'll talk about that. Also, fury as a French official says the number of small boat migrants crossings is not huge in that official's estimation. We'll talk about West Midlands Police, who have been called back to Parliament because of mistruths they told Parliament about Maccabi Tel Aviv, and all the Christmas travel, and most importantly, the return of Tech Up Dave, who will be giving us some Christmas cheer live in the studio before 1 o'clock. So loads to discuss. Be sure to get in touch about all of that. And thank you so much to everybody, of course, who has sent messages or cards or presents or whatever you have sent, even if it's simply a text message to say Happy Christmas. I want to say a big, big Happy Christmas to all of you, and Happy Hanukkah as well to our Jewish viewers and listeners. Loads to discuss between now and 1 o'clock. The numbers are 0344 499 1000. You can text me at 7222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell, send me a voice note, Tech Up Dave, and listen to all those voice notes. We'll play out as many as we can between now and 1 o'clock. The number 0344 499 1000. That is the number, of course, for phone calls and the number for WhatsApp text messages. So lots of ways you can get through, get your voice on the air and get your voice heard. 0344 499 1000. Let's start the show. Let's get going here on Talk. Well, I'm delighted to say our first guest of the programme is Colonel James Sunderland, who is a former Conservative MP. He's a military expert as well, so we'll maybe get into a little bit on Ukraine too, if he's happy to talk about that, which I expect he will be. But James, first of all, we can talk about Kemi Badenoch on a poll that has been shown. Now, obviously, Reform UK, and we'll talk to them a bit later on in the programme, have been well ahead in the polls for a long period of time. But now an end-of-year survey has put Kemi Badenoch's party on 22%. That's up from 20% a month ago. They do seem to be doing a little bit better. Her performances at Prime Minister's Questions, certainly better. We were both, I know, at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester, and I think the speech she gave there was a bit of a turning point. But are the Conservatives right to be optimistic, or are they sort of at Everest Base Camp of a mountain still to climb? Because there's still a lot of people, a lot of our viewers and listeners, James, who just do not trust the Tories and say that the last 14 years are a legacy they're not happy with. What do you think?
Well, Peter, good morning. There's lots in that question, but what I would say is that the Conservative Party is the most successful and one of the most enduring parties in the world. That success has not come by accident. Most people I talk to actually believe in the fundamental principles of conservatism, which is opportunity, enterprise, which is making money, which is strong economy, which is opportunity, which is all the things that we believe in as Conservatives. It's about freedoms, everything that we're not seeing currently with the Labour government. But what I would say to you is that Kemi performed brilliantly at the conference. Her speech was excellent. Her performances at the dispatch box, PMQs, are increasingly positive. They're very strong, and I think it's all to play for. And not only that, I think people are looking at Reform now and thinking, you know what, they're led by a charismatic leader, but is there any depth there? Are there any policies there? And the only party coming out right now with positive, coherent policy offer is the Conservatives.
Well, Reform would deny that, as I'm sure many others would as well. It's interesting, though, because the sands are shifting, are they not? And could it not be the case that the Conservatives could be the junior coalition partner with Reform UK? Obviously, all of this is, 3 years off. There are elections in May. There are some elections that won't happen for another year or 2 years, and that's something that is really annoying a lot of our viewers and listeners, that denial of democracy, that postponement of those local elections. But could that actually help the Conservatives, do you think? Because, I spoke to James Cleverly, the shadow community secretary, shadow local government secretary, the other day. He said he couldn't guarantee that no Conservative council would actually have to say that those elections had to be postponed because of what was imposed by central government. I wonder what you make of that.
Look, the Conservative Party is the party of democracy. I think it'd be wrong.
Although they postponed elections too. When in government, Conservatives did postpone elections for a year in some areas.
Well, there's a good reason for that. It's called COVID. But we have not got the same reasons
But
now.
also because of local government reorganisation. It wasn't just COVID, James.
No, but I think if you analyse the two situations, they're very different. Labour right now want to postpone elections as a mark of convenience because they're never going to lose. With the Conservatives, there was a good reason for doing that, which any analysis of history will prove. So I think the point I'm saying is that as a Conservative, as the party of democracy, we need to make sure that elections happen, whatever the result. Which is why, I'm not jumping ship to Reform. I'm not an opportunist. I think that, us Conservatives need to be proud of what we are. We need to be proud of the offer, proud of what the party's achieved. We need to accept the defeat last year. We need to learn from those lessons. The party right now is in a process of culling individuals, former MPs that they don't want back. What we need are competent, decent individuals with professional backgrounds, safe pair of hands, who are going to come back into government and lead the country to where it needs to be. And I could talk to you about the Great Reform Bill. I could talk to you about the things that we're talking about behind closed doors right now. Very, very exciting. Okay. But I can promise you and your listeners that at the next election, the Conservatives will come back with a very, very, very enduring and positive and alluring policy offer.
Let me ask you about a story that has really caught my eye and definitely will annoy an awful lot of our viewers and listeners, I know. A migrant drug dealer was allowed to stay in the UK by an asylum judge just 24 hours before he admitted sexually assaulting 2 women. This is Mohammed Azan, who was told he could remain on the 11th of October after winning a mental health appeal after his removal to Pakistan. A day later, he pleaded guilty via video link from jail to groping 2 terrified women in daylight on a busy high street in Norwich. He was fined £200 for that. He was jailed for 30 months for his role in a drug gang as well. But the asylum judge ruled in January that he came to the UK aged 7, had a right to family life in Britain. Home Office appeal against it failed last month. It's interesting as well, Robert Jenrick from your party, the Shadow Justice Secretary, saying our immigration system is a joke on the British people. Quite a number of asylum seekers now saying there's a mental health reason or alternatively a cultural reason that they don't understand the rules in this country. I just wonder what you make of this, because my strong view is that if you come to a country, you've got to abide by its rules and its laws and no exception should be made.
I agree with you, I'm afraid. I've got a very clear view about right to remain. If you commit crimes, if you are found guilty in a court of law, if you're not a British national, the list goes on. I think that I have a zero tolerance view about deportation. If you commit these crimes, if you're not reciprocating the hospitality that you are given by a host nation, if you're not abiding by the rules and the laws of the land, I'm afraid you're gone. It's interesting, isn't it, that Reform have captured this ground very successfully, but actually I'm a traditional Conservative. I think that right to remain needs to be earned. And my humble view is that, we're not getting immigration right. We didn't get it right in government. We know why that was the case, because of the laws of the land. There is work to do to change the primary legislation. We do need to be leaving the ECHR. The list goes on. But I think that with the backdrop of the last election defeat and the fact that this is happening now and the fact that Labour is not making it better at all, they're making it worse, we know what we need to do, which is we need to change the law to make sure that these judges don't pass these ridiculous sentences on people and that we deport them when they need to be.
I mean, Labour would say they are changing the law. They would say that they've got a raft of different measures to change the asylum system. They're also saying that, in theory, you could be in this country for 17 and a half years and then be told you've got to leave because you don't have indefinite leave to remain and you don't earn citizenship. I wonder what you make of those many proposals for change that Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has raised and has put forward.
Well, I play with a straight bat, actually, and the new Home Secretary, I quite like her. She says what she thinks. Clearly, there are inconsistencies with what she was saying before she was an MP and as a backbencher. But actually, she is making an effort to change it. And so I think in that respect, we need to support her. But Labour aren't going far enough. And, for as long as Labour welcomes these legal migrants with open arms, as long as we're not deporting people with no right to be here, I'm afraid it's going to require a Conservative government, possibly even in coalition with Reform, to get that done.
Yeah, and just before you go, a big story, front page of the Telegraph, I'll see if I can find it here. Yes, it is that the majority of Jews do not feel safe in Britain. They do not feel they have a long-term future in the UK and have considered leaving the country. Anti-Semitism has left 61% of the Jewish community considering moving abroad, up from 50% last year. It's been carried out by the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. 51% of Jews feel they do not have a long-term future in the UK. And this was after what happened at Heaton Park, of course. A spokesman for the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism said the polling starkly tells us how Jews blame two successive governments, as well as inert police chiefs and prosecutors, for the explosion of anti-Semitic extremism, which has left 2 Jews dead and much of the rest of the community reluctantly eyeing the exits. 2 successive governments, they say.
Yeah, I don't recognise that at all. I mean, I think anti-Semitism is an absolute scourge. We've seen it in Australia recently. Horrible events all over the world. I'm afraid people who live in the UK need to live freely. They need to feel safe. They need to go about their business without fear of reprisal or fear of religious persecution. And one of the things about the UK that I'm most proud of as a former army colonel and former politician is that we do have those freedoms. I worry about those freedoms being eroded. I worry about the erosion of free speech. We've got to tackle that. But I think we need to do everything we possibly can to protect the Jewish community. What's happening in Israel, Gaza, and Palestine, that is an issue that's on people's minds. But we need to let the politicians deal with that and let that play out in the political space internationally. Domestically, in the UK, I think we need people to go about the business freely. And I fear that we're going to see more anti-Semitism unless we nip it in the bud.
I do too. I think you're absolutely right. James, thank you for your contribution this morning. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thanks for speaking to us. Bill in Liverpool has been in touch on WhatsApp and says, "Morning, Peter. Have you heard back from Avon and Somerset Police about the prosecution of Bob Vylan's performer Pascal Robinson Foster, who shouted death, death to the IDF at Glastonbury? I've also emailed the Chief Constable, but I've not yet received a reply." Well, it is now 174 days since Bob Vylan frontman Pascal Robinson Foster shouted death, death to the IDF and led people in a chant. There were people shouting it back who were at Glastonbury. That was at the tail end of June. If it is a public order offence, which they've told us it is, they did get back to us. In fairness, their press office is pretty responsive. They're not bad people at all, and they're doing what their masters tell them to do. And they have said there's no update in the case. The answer I haven't got from the press office, and I've asked them again, is specifically on the matter of what the heads of the London and Manchester police have said about the fact that if you shout globalise the Intifada, you will be arrested. Will that be the case in Avon and Somerset? Haven't got an answer on that, but in fairness, they have said, look, there's no update on this case. We have pointed out here at Talk, look, there's only a week left here. It's only till next Sunday, and if he isn't charged, then the 6-month period where you could charge him with a public order offence in a magistrate's court, Pascal Robinson Foster, well, that will lapse. And it's been my belief for a long time that they're simply running down the clock on this. The Crown Prosecution Service have a role to play in this as well. We're not letting them off the hook, and I'm going to continue to bang on about this. And when I'm back on air on the 29th, on Monday the 29th, guarantee that he will not, Pascal Robinson Foster, will not have been charged, and I am going to make a big song and dance about it, and even on Somerset Police are going to know all about it. So Bill, thank you very much indeed for your message there. I want to speak to Nigel in London about the Conservative Party. He's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Nigel, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Well, I think your last guest I think needs to look in the mirror. The Conservative Party, as far as I'm concerned, are a bit like a stale Cornish pasty. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. They had 14 years to turn the country around. They had a massive majority.
Yeah, but Nigel, somebody does want them. They've gone up in the polls to 22%, in the polls up from 20%. They've been languishing around 15, 16% for a while.
Well,
Kemi Badenoch is getting through to some degree, Nigel, isn't she?
Well, it's interesting. It depends on which poll you look at. I mean, I looked at a Sky poll this morning on Sky. They're up 18.9 over, I think, over 18.2 over Labour, and I think Reform are 29%. But I think it has to be understood that the polls are only representative on the day. And I think, for me, the Tory party did nothing about law and order. They did nothing about the economy. And this gentleman says about freedom of speech. Well, we have what we call selective freedom of speech in this country. Certain communities can say what they want, and certain communities can't say what they want, and certain communities are called up by the police for being identifiable to who they are. And I think in reality...
Well, and it's worse than that. It's worse than that, Nigel. First of all, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right on what people can say and not say. But it's worse than that, because we have, as I just mentioned a minute ago, in London and in Manchester, if you say globalise the Intifada, you'll be arrested. But elsewhere, we don't know. Even in Somerset, for example, I've asked them. We don't know whether you'd be arrested there. So it's not just two-tier police, it's many-tier policing.
I agree with you, and I know I would do, Peter, if I was you, and as a journalist as well. Maybe worth getting in touch with the College of Policing to ask what their response to.
Yeah, good idea. We'll do that. Yeah, thank you for that.
By the Great Bishop, and some might really have said. But I think in reality, the Tories have to understand that this country is in a mess, and it's in a mess which I don't think can be got out of very, very quickly. We've got an immigration problem. We've got a crime problem. We've got an economy problem. We've got huge amounts of problems. And the difficulty that this country faces, whether it's Labour or whether it's Conservative government, they don't encourage growth. They don't encourage ambition. They don't encourage entrepreneurship. All they want to do is hold people back and stifle them from doing good and bringing good to the country.
Nigel, thank you. Strong words there. Happy Christmas to you, and thank you for your call there. Let's speak to Neil in Buckinghamshire. He has some views on the Tories as well. Neil, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hello, Peter. I'm just saying, well, people are just saying about the Tories. They should stop calling them Tories. They haven't been Tories for years. It all started with Cameron, Theresa May. And I know you used to work for her, but you're going to tell me that she's a proper Tory. She's a Liberal. They all are. Boris Johnson, biggest Liberal going. He's a liar. Rishi Sunak, Liberal. The only Tory that would have been there would have been Liz Truss, but she got outed because she would have been a Tory. And it's like, Tories, law and order, immigration, they've done nothing of that for the last 14 years.
Do you think that they're a busted flush? These 22% of people who are supporting them shouldn't be?
I think just like a new football manager takes over, and all of a sudden you get a little bit of a lead. Kemi Badenoch has started to look like that for a little while. She'll get found out because people like Cleverly, who are behind her, biggest Liberal going, he will not.
He opposed her. He stood against her. He would arguably be even more to the left of her. But certainly, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think we probably respectfully disagree on Theresa May. But nonetheless, I think we're in a situation where the Tories have changed. They're a different party to where they are previously. And Reform UK have certainly captured a lot of that ground. And there are an awful lot of supporters of them. And they're still ahead in this poll.
Yeah, but you say about Theresa May, Home Secretary, she cut the police in because the police are not Tories about law and order. She stopped that when she was Home Secretary. She's not a real Tory. And I know you're going to stick up for her because you used to work for her, and I commend that, but she was one of the biggest things when she was Home Secretary, and she should never have become leader.
Okay.
Because the Tories went too far to the left with her, and then Boris come in, Boris, unfortunately, is a Liberal. Just look at his father.
No, well, listen, Neil, I'm happy to disagree on Theresa May. I think your point about reducing police numbers is an absolutely fair one, and I think it's something that, successive Conservative leaders, I'm not saying they were perfect at all, but Boris Johnson certainly attempted to reverse that anyway, so it was a mistake. So I think we'll meet in the middle on that one. But Neil, listen, thanks for your comments, and a very happy Christmas to you.
And you, take it easy.
Cheers, mate. Okay, that's Neil in Buckinghamshire there. Thank you to both Neil and Nigel and everybody else who's been in touch. Mary says, hi, Peter. It would be interesting if you could ask some Labour voters to ring you and discuss their thoughts on this government so far. Mary, I'd love anybody who votes for any party, including the Labour Party, is very welcome to ring me between now and 1 o'clock on 0344 499 1000. I recall with James Max, host of the Early Breakfast Show, Ian and Ken would regularly debate the improvements we would see when a Labour government was elected. I do wonder if they still think that now. Well, Ian and Ken, I'm not quite sure who you're referring to there, is callers to James Max there previously. If you are listening right now and you want to ring in and say how amazing Labour is, that's okay. We'll have a discussion about it. We'll disagree without being disagreeable. Cliff in Berkshire says, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Cliff. It was sad to hear on Talk this morning security devices are being fitted to food items such as pigs and blankets. It made me wonder, are thieves stealing these items to sell on to fund a habit? Are poor people stealing because they can't afford to buy them? Or is it just a general breakdown of society? We're seeing more and more food banks, so perhaps people are just too poor to afford the basic food items they need. Well, food inflation is a big, big thing, Cliff, as we have seen. I'm not condoning anybody who shoplifts. People should not be shoplifting, and you do see those security tags on all sorts of things, all sorts of different products, some even actually not that expensive, but actually pigs and blankets are the ones that have been on at the moment that Cliff references there, so thank you for that, Cliff. Please tell James Sunderland, says Francis, West Sussex County Council is one of the councils not having elections again this year. They were cancelled last year too. This is a Conservative council. Labour and Conservatives are both as bad as each other. Well, thank you, Francis, for that. Appreciate your views on that. And yeah, we'll continue to talk about that. It's now been actually a couple of days since that announcement, but loads of people very, very angry about that. And I'm very, very happy if you want to articulate that anger and tell me why you think that, for you to give me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Lucy Beresford and Matthew Goodwin Freeman are going to be on the debate desk next here on Talk. Plenty to talk about with them. If you want to talk to them too, you can also give me a ring. Loads to discuss between now and 1 o'clock here on Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to Tad in Cambridge, who says James Sunderland is some brass neck. The Tories have delivered 2 massive defeats in the last 30 years through failing to deliver the type of government the people demanded. The result is the most dangerous threat Britain has faced, from the most evil neo-Marxists on duplicity. The 3 main parties are neck and neck. I wouldn't trust any of them to butter a slice of toast, says Tad. Well, we have one Conservative with us. That is Matthew Goodwin-Freeman. He's a Conservative councillor and commentator. And Lucy Beresford is with us too, the broadcaster, author and queen amongst women. Great to see you here in the studio.
I wonder where you were going with that.
Very happy Christmas to you both. You're both looking, for those who are listening on the radio, Matthew, do you want to sort of reveal?
So I have a Yule Britannia Christmas jumper. It was the winner of my Christmas jumper poll. And obviously I had to go find that one Christmas jumper that still had a Union Jack on it. So I'm very happy this morning.
I mean, it's quite the combination. Lucy, you're in red.
I am,
Festive
lady
red.
in red,
Yeah.
but it was the only other dress I had that looked vaguely festive, so
Well, there we are.
I'm glad you've noticed.
Some of us don't need food to be, some of us don't need specific clothes to be festive. Right, Matthew, tell us what you think about James Sunderland and the criticism that has been made of him here by Tad. Not James specifically, we like James, but the Conservatives in general. They're up to 22% in a poll. You must be glad about that. But at the same time, there are many people who still feel that they can't be part of the government again. What do you think?
Look, I mean, the Conservatives had 14 years of government. It's only been, 18 months since we've been out of it. There is a long way until the next election. It's nice to see that we're actually climbing in the polls instead of falling in the polls. I've come on this show and many other shows saying for a long time we need a punchy, fighty leader that says what we want.
Have you got one?
Now, finally, after party conference, Kemi's turned that corner. She's been performing far better at Prime Minister's questions, actually holding this Labour government to account, and people are starting to see it. But, as I said, there is a long way to go until the next general election. We've got to see what carries on. And at the end of the day, Reform are still, I think, 10 points ahead of us. So there is a long, long way to go.
It depends on the poll you look at, and different polls say different things. But certainly this one is a Christmas poll bounce for Kemi Badenoch. Can you see, you know when you sort of close your eyes and think, right, who's going to be waving on 10 Downing Street? Can you really see Kemi Badenoch there, Lucy?
I can see it happening much more than I could, let's say, 3 months ago. So pre-party conference, I think people were really thinking, gosh, there could actually be a coup. There could be something happening in Manchester if her speech isn't well received. But actually it was incredibly well received. And in particular, that was because there was a specific policy announcement, which was about stamp duty. And suddenly people thought, yes, this is actually the low-tax Conservative party that I really want to realign with. So that was, in a way, the beginning of her fight back. And only Kemi really could have gone to Brands Hatch, as she did last week, strutting down that pass where all the cars are, in a pair of red stiletto heels. And I don't want to sound
I'd love
frivolous.
to see Keir Starmer in a pair of red stiletto heels.
That would actually really turn my stomach. But I don't want to sound frivolous about it, but actually she comes across as more confident. Her energy, there's a very different vibe about her. So it's not just about her performances in PMQs, because as I think we all remember, William Hague was devastatingly good at PMQs against Tony Blair, and much good it did him.
Well, exactly.
But there's
almost exactly the same result in 2001 than 1997.
Exactly. So there was no movement of the dial at all, because actually, guess what? Ordinary voters are not really paying attention. They are not paying attention to politics.
Well,
on a
do you know what?
basis.
I'll tell you a little secret about Talk, actually. We used to play the whole thing. We used to play all of PMQs. We come in and out of it a little bit.
And the numbers
just trashed. They really did. And we thought, how can we do this better? How can we make it? And we experimented a little bit, did a few different clips and things. And then we thought, actually, if we just show the six questions, the exchange between the leader, the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition, that will do it.
And then have someone brilliant analyse it, obviously, it's happening.
I'm sure Claire Pearsall will be very happy with that.
But listen, the average man in the street and the 50% of people less engaged than the average man in the street are not paying attention, but they get a sense of the vibe of these people. And when you have Kemi, who is actually owning her narrative, I think she just feels a little bit more engaged, a little bit more energised about it. So I can see it happening. And what I can also see is people beginning to look more closely at Nigel Farage, who, has this persona that has...
Does he need to be worried about Kemi Badenoch, do you think?
I think he needs to be worried about himself, actually, because there's a side of Nigel Farage that is coming out, which is quite tetchy and quite petulant, that we're seeing a lot more of. He can't laugh off some of the commentary and scrutiny that he's been getting over the last 3 months in the way that he used to.
Although maybe his approach, I mean, it has worked. He's been arguably the most influential politician in the last 25 years.
Without a doubt.
And his approach to criticism has simply been to say, well, you know, people are going to criticise. Yes, he has been a bit tetchier, I think, recently, but it's not having any real effect. Or maybe it is. Maybe
well, no, but that's why we're talking about it, because in fact, there has been some movement in the polls. But it's not necessarily reform going
down necessarily. There's
no, but there is. I mean, Jane Green, who is a political scientist, was talking this week about whether there has actually been a ceiling. You know, have reform hit that ceiling? And it is very possible that they have. The more scrutiny that Reform and Nigel Farage in particular are under, and the more scrutiny of their policies, the more people might think, well, you are just like all the others.
There are going to be a lot of people, though, who just dislike Nigel Farage anyway. Do you think they've hit a ceiling? I mean, just be an analyst, not a conservative. What do you think? Be
completely honest, if they get 30% of the next general election, the polls are how they are, it's a Reform majority. Right. So, frankly, they just need to hold where they are. That's the point. But what we are seeing is a level of incredible scrutiny on Reform from the mainstream media. Anytime a Reform councillor sneezes, they effectively are a headline, whereas I think we've had 140 Labour councillors resign or have to stand down this year alone. You don't see that on the front pages.
On that exact note, I would ask, we reported yesterday, and in fairness I missed it, and Lorraine, who's a long-time viewer and listener, texted in and very kindly said, you've got to talk about this. I would ask people at home, how much coverage have you seen of the Green councillor who has been accused, which I'm sure he denies, on charges or allegations anyway, of modern slavery? And if that was a Conservative councillor or a Reform UK councillor, I expect it would have got a lot more coverage. We covered it in this programme simply because Lorraine sent it in, and as I always say, this is my show, but it's your show too. And if you want me to cover things, there's things I'm missing. I mean, we have a great production staff, great people behind the scenes. I can't see everything, know everything, read everything. And Lorraine got in touch. She was a bit annoyed, actually. She said, why aren't you covering this? You know, you're covering this up. And I was like, well, we're not. We're actually, literally didn't see it. Lorraine pointed it out, happy to cover it, but where else have you seen that coverage? Is it on the front page of the BBC News website or other broadcasters? You know, we've got to cover. We've got to be fair. And some people say to me, you know, I give Alex Wilson's going to be on a little bit later on. I'm going to do a robust interview with him, as I always do with every politician. You know, I've gone for Richard Tice a few times, and we've had some fairly touchy exchanges. Although Richard is a very, very good person and engages and always comes on my programme when he can. But the point is, in the next 3 years, we've got to have exactly the same standards for all our politicians, whether they are your party, Green Party, or Conservative or Reform or whoever. And that fairness and that straightforward and being your voice is what we're going to do here at Talk. We'll be back in the debate desk in just a second. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is talk.
Well, thank you so much to everybody who has been in touch, and we'll get to all of your calls, text, tweets and voice notes a little bit later on. In the meantime, we're with Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, Conservative councillor and commentator, and Lucy Beresford, the psychotherapist and broadcaster. Great to have you in the studio. I just want to talk briefly about this story about the migrant drug dealer who grouped two women allowed to stay in the UK, and I just really think this is something that is I'm actually going to talk to Matt Vickers about it a little bit later on. He's the Shadow Minister for Crime and Policing. I just wonder what you make of this, Matthew.
Soft touch. We are so soft touch. I'm fed up of it. All we ever see is stories make the news where common sense would be right. Well, arrest the guy, send the guy to jail, deport the guy. But no, apparently we let them off, or won't deport them, or they don't like the chicken nuggets back in their home country. All these stupid reasons. Can we please just wake up? The ECHR is not being applied how it should. It was brought in after the Second World War, the atrocities that the Nazis did to the Jewish population. That is not the same as not liking chicken nuggets back in your country. And that's just one example.
I also say
I'm fed up of it being used
I
as
also say about the ECHR, people say, oh, the ECHR, you know, what's so wonderful about human rights. In 1951, the ECHR did not say that you couldn't have corporal punishment, for example, for prisoners, and it didn't outline, it didn't say that the death penalty couldn't happen either. Quick word from you on this,
Well, I feel
Lucy.
the same, and I think that's what is making people so scared, because they feel that the justice system isn't working for ordinary people, people who are attacked, people whose children are raped, who feel assaulted in their own communities, and that's why there is this allegation of two-tier policing, because people recognise that the police go out there and are very happy to kind of break down the door of someone who maybe has put out a tweet, but you could
careful
actually
what you
do
tweet or what Christmas songs you sing this Christmas.
Totally.
Careful,
We'll
everyone.
get to that.
Well, yes, but actually people feel scared.
Yeah. I want to speak to Jackie in Devon, who has given me a shout about the Tories and reform. Jackie, you're very welcome to the programme. You're on not just with me, but with Lucy and Matthew as well. What would you like to say this morning?
Hello, happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
I think you're amazing, an amazing presenter.
That's very kind. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. So I'm really worried that in 4 years' time we're going to have a hung parliament that the vote will be split basically between Reform and the Tories, and that really concerns me. So I didn't vote Labour this time. I was previously a Labour voter when Blair was in power, but I'm not anymore. I haven't been for the last 3 elections. But I've joined the Reform Party just to boost numbers. But now that Kemi's coming through, and I really like Robert Jenrick as well, I can see the party getting back on its feet again. But I'm really concerned that, you know, over the next 4 years, the vote will be split and we'll have a hung parliament.
Do you then think, Jackie, that there should be some sort of coalition, some agreement between them? I mean, you're clearly conflicted in this, and you're seeing different things that you are attracted to in both Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage. There must be quite a lot of people in your position as well, especially if the Conservatives, if this poll is to be believed and they're in 22%. What do you think the parties should do to make sure at least some of what you want to happen happens in the next few years, Jackie, if there is, well, there will be an election in 3 years' time?
Well, let's hope it's 3 years' time, Peter, and Keir doesn't do anything to, put paid to that. I think there should be some kind of coalition, I think. But I think also I think we need to get people out to vote. I think people aren't voting as well. And I think Labour will introduce over the next 3 or 4 years, just before the election, some kind of new law, because we know they're constantly changing the law, that will allow all these people, the migrants or people that have been here for 2 years or less, it will allow them to vote. And then I think that's the way Labour are going to try and swing this again. So I think there has to be a coalition, really. Kemi's just really knocking the socks off everything at the moment, and I'm really enjoying PMQs and everything. But a coalition, I think, is the answer.
Okay, well listen, thanks so much for your call, Jackie. Really appreciate that, and Merry Christmas to you. What do you make of what Jackie was saying there, Lucy?
Well, I think it's difficult because there are a large number of people in the Conservative Party who would do anything rather than get into bed with Nigel Farage.
I think it
that's
would
an image for Christmas. Thank you.
The Conservatives.
Yeah. Well, I think David Gork in particular, there was a piece in The Independent yesterday, or maybe it was overnight. No, but he speaks for a wing of that party, I think, who feel that to sup with Nigel Farage you need an exceptionally long spoon. And of course the flip side of that is that Nigel Farage runs the risk of saying, oh, I'm very different to all these people, but actually if they start to get too many defections, if more people follow the line of Danny Kruger, for example, and defect to reform, then it will be harder for Nigel Farage to say I'm very different from all the other parties.
It does dilute it, and I think that's a fair point. And Nadine Dorries did not go down well at Reform UK's conference.
Yeah, and that speaks, I think, to people, again, who aren't necessarily au fait with the ins and outs of politics too much, but they see the overall optics of it and think, well, hang on a minute, if you're just taking on lots of the old Conservative MPs, how can you say that you're so different? So I think Kemi's got to be very careful. She's got to be her own woman, really. She's got to really embrace this streak that she's in, which is to be much more confident and to say these are our policies. And don't forget, one of the key differences between the Conservatives and the Reform is their attitude to public spending. Nigel Farage is now beginning to talk about spending billions and billions of pounds. He's got a much more left-wing economic mindset than most people give him credit for. Whereas the Conservatives, if they can stick...
Well, that was Kemi Baddock's criticism, wasn't it? She called Reform UK Corbynism with the Union Jack.
And she was picked up on that so badly. I think she was actually interviewed maybe on a rival station to this one, and it was almost deliberately misinterpreted that. But actually what she meant was he's incredibly left-wing economically, and if she'd said it that way rather than a sort of clever little soundbite, I think people would have understood that.
I actually think Corbynism is one of the few things she's ever said that I've actually properly remembered.
But people might necessarily not understand it. And again, the average voter in the street wants to know, am I going to have more money in my pocket at the end of the day? And if she can say yes, because we're going to eliminate eliminating stamp duty would actually transform not just how much money people have in their pockets, it would transform the house building industry, it would transform the property sector.
You might even get 1.5 million homes. Matthew, your thoughts on this?
Look, I mean, there are a lot of things that I say that Reform agree with. There are a lot of things that Reform say that I agree with.
I mean, you're more on the wing of
on the right.
You're more on the right. You're not the David Gauke sunshine lollipops and rainbows wing. I think you're on the more sort of maybe we should think about Nigel wing.
Well, absolutely, and I think it's one of those where we need to see what party is in the greater position come when the general election happens, which could be 2028, could be 2029. Who knows, given the way this government's cancelling elections. We need to see who's in the greater position, but what's the alternative? A left bubble and squeak coalition of Labour, Lib Dem, Greens, your party, the SNP. I mean, could you imagine that, where we have, Reform being the largest party,
although we were
and a massive left-wing coalition.
In 2017, we were told there would be the coalition of chaos.
Wow.
And I mean, there wasn't exactly a lack of chaos.
Maybe
after
coming.
that. Well, indeed. Let's go back to Jackie. Is Jackie still there? Jackie, you still there? Yes, you are. Marvellous. What do you think of what Lucy and Matthew have been saying there?
I think absolutely, and I think to understand the nuances of everything is your job and kind of not mine really. I'm feeling the bigger picture, but it's just about having a split vote. That's what concerns me. That's the main thing. I think we cannot have Labour, we cannot have this government, and again they are destroying the UK. So it's the splitting of the vote that concerns me.
I think Matthew is wrong. That's why I think it isn't about necessarily saying, I wonder which one of them is going to be ahead, Reform or Conservative. It is actually about the Conservatives making a much stronger argument about the economics of this, because the Reform is too left-wing economically. And actually, if we want stable finances and if people want more money in their own pocket, they have to vote Conservative.
Let me just ask a final question to Jackie before we let you go, Jackie. Do you feel Reform UK are left-wing economically? Do you feel economically they get it? Is that part of your consideration? Maybe it's not something you're thinking too much about. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't just go on there. I don't just go off their migrant policies and things like that. I do try to look at the details of what they're saying, but I don't know. I can't quite answer your question directly, but I don't know if they've got enough experience in the party to lead a government.
Okay. Jackie, thank you very much. I think we're being told by the canine in the background there that it's time to end the call. Sometimes they have
time for breakfast.
Time for breakfast, perhaps. Jackie, thank you very, very much indeed. A Merry Christmas to you. That's Jackie in Devon there. Kelvin in Macclesfield says, morning, Peter. Merry Christmas to you and all at talk. Merry Christmas to you, Kelvin. On Nigel Farage are the same people looking at his background, looking at Starmer's background, and all of them at the top in the Labour Party and all the top people in all the other parties. I'm sure they would find out a lot more about them than Nigel. These left-wing morons are worried about their stupidity coming to an end. Importing child abusers, rapists, killers, shoplifters, terrorists. These are the people the lefties support and want here, in Kelvin's opinion. Be careful what you vote for. You vote the scum in, you get the scum. Well, I don't know if we should be going around calling people scum necessarily. You can if you want, and that's fine, Kelvin, but Angela Rayner certainly called Tories scum, and I wasn't too happy about that. Vote common sense that you will get common sense, says Kelvin. Slating Nigel Farage, really? How about slating Starmer? The farmer, granny harmer, pension robber? Oh, I forgot, that's all okay then. Bloody help this lot, says Kelvin. Thank you. David Litchfield says, whatever your thoughts on the rise, the videos coming from France where they're bursting with dinghies of migrants, they also have vast evidence there are no gangs and it's purely NGOs who are facilitating the boats and coaching the migrants to the destinations and the beaches. Please look into this, Dave. Thank you for that. Another David in Suffolk says, I've always voted in the past for a Tory government because if you're in the right of politics, because there was no alternative, but since the Brexit vote, I've voted and will continue to vote for Reform UK. The Tories had 14 years and are a change. They had 14 years to make a change and failed. To me, that was their lot, says David. Lots more to come on the debate desk with Lucy and with Matthew. Stay with us here on Talk.
I know polling can be a strange old thing, but they're pretty consistent in favour of reform right now.
Well, and Reform did extremely well in this year's local elections in May. I mean, they're sweeping the board in all sorts of unlikely places, in effect replacing the Conservative Party as the main.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello to Jason, who is not in the Lake District at all. He is in somewhere rather more glamorous and hot, which is, I think, Albufeira. I think that's how you pronounce it. He is not as far as Shane in Sydney, who Shane in Sydney, I think, is our furthest flung viewer and listener. But Jason in the Lake District, who's not in the Lake District, is in Albufeira, I think, which looks lovely. I hope that's how you pronounce it, but it does look absolutely beautiful. He sent me a picture there, so thank you for that. Kaz in Bedford says the Tories had become lazy, liberal and complacent. They knew how bad Labour would be. They've turned out to be much worse. They assumed that after one term they would be back in office. That was before reform galvanised the population into a viable rival. The Tories had to show up at last and get their act together, but it's too little too late. We can see through the Uni Party's self-serving game and want our authentic voice back. What do you make of that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair point.
When people say Uni Party, what do you think?
I find it slightly frustrating because it is just the fact of, 14 years of Tories. Now we've had 18 months of Labour. Forget them too, let's find another party. But I get it. I get the frustration out there. People rely on their governments to make a difference, and people want change to the simple issues that they're facing. They want taxes down, the government to get its hand out of your pocket, to let you just be who you want to be. And so that's what people are frustrated by. But the big thing, which is something that Jackie said, was people not voting. Go and vote. 40% of people didn't vote in the general election. Something like 70% of people are not going to vote in the local elections this May. Go vote.
They need to feel that something is at stake, actually. And I think it was such a pedestrian general election last year. It was so obvious that Labour were going to win. The question was, how big was their majority going to be? That a lot of people stayed at home. And I think if people really felt next time round, whenever that is, that actually there was more at stake and that we could run the risk of having a party like Labour that has done absolutely nothing, or has actually been actively dangerous.
The
problem is to imagine that Conservatives and Reform are the same because they're right, and on the right of
they're really not.
And they're not.
Speaking of people staying at home, I think Rachel Reeves will not be going to your local boozer.
No.
Lucy, can you take us through this story and tell us what's at stake here?
Yet another furious landlord has banned Rachel Reeves from their pub because of the decimation that has been caused, not just to the pub industry, but also to the hospitality industry more widely. 3 pubs a week have gone bust since October 2024, and there is this sense that as Chancellor she does not understand that raising national insurance contributions for employers, hiking the minimum wage, which is obviously a laudable aim in and of itself, but actually if it's outranking inflation and actually you're making it harder to either retain staff or employ anybody, particularly at the lower end of the scale, people who are looking for their first job, then you're actually crucifying these industries. And so, quite rightly, this landlord has said, you are not welcome here.
I've just looked up a message that was sent to me by Spike, who is a long-time viewer and listener who has got in touch from Wales, from Tenby in Wales. His local, now I should say Rachel Reeves is local, their business rates are going to go up by £2,500. That's a hike in business rate. Will you hear this? Will you hear this? So Spike has been in touch about his local boozer that he enjoys a pint in. Their rateable value in the 1st of April 2023, £13,500 a year. That's a lot.
Yeah.
From the 1st of April 2026, 3 years later, £33,750. And to pay that, you've got to have, you bring in the income and be taxed on it and then pay it. That is Spike's local boozer. If you've got even worse examples, please do send them through. And this is part of a wider pattern, isn't it, Matthew?
Well, it's no surprise that unemployment has gone up every single month since Labour came into government.
But that's nothing to do with the national insurance rates.
Absolutely no.
No connection.
If you make businesses pay more national insurance on employing people, why on earth would they stop employing people? It's ridiculous. Pressure on the high streets, taxing everyone to the hilter. I mean, we've got the highest tax burden in generations now. £44 billion they increased it at the last budget. I think it was £24 billion at this budget. But don't worry, there's tons of money to send off the Chagos Islands and all the other things that we need in this country.
Although joining the Erasmus scheme
Rejoin Erasmus for £540 million. I mean, people want solutions to the issues that they're facing. That is not selling off the Chagos Islands. It is not giving more benefits to Benefits Britain. It is helping people who work hard, those working people that we can all define but Labour can't seem to have a more enjoyable life and more money in their pocket.
In the next 4 minutes, we're going to try and get through 2 stories.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about...
Oh, yes, we are.
The cricket.
It is devastating. So England have semantics here.
Australia have retained the Ashes.
They have, which means that England have basically lost. They have lost their ability to turn things around. We had this fantastic style of cricket, which is called Bazball. People maybe know that the Ashes came about because we lost a cricket match 150 years ago, and it was almost as if it was the death of cricket. And the bails were, burned, and the ashes were put in a little urn. That's the story behind the Ashes and behind the urn that gets transferred every 2 years. This is the death of Bazball. This is the death of a particular style of cricket which has been very exciting to watch, but it has been no match for Australia, particularly on the ground. And maybe Brendan McCullum, when you hear Brendan McCullum speak, he doesn't sound English. He does sound quite Australian. So there may be something in there. But he is, I suspect, in coaching terms, he's not long for this world.
I think it's all our producer Chris Jacobs' fault.
Who is
actually.
there?
He's there.
Who's there? It's all his fault.
Clearly, as we have exactly 2 minutes late, 2 minutes to go before the news, Matthew, I'm going to take your sadness at Australia retaining the Ashes.
The other sports are available.
As implied.
Other sports
So
are
perhaps you can
available.
tell us about this Christmas songs controversy.
Well, careful what songs you sing this Christmas. Apparently, you're not allowed to sing, what is it?
Jingle Bells
Jingle
is-
Bells
Jingle Bells
is
is
not
racist.
acceptable because it's racist.
Jingle
Do they
Bells
know
is
it's
racist.
Christmas is stereotyping Africa, even though it's raising money for Africa? That makes sense. And
They
baby,
do say there won't be snow in Africa this Christmas. I mean, there's
I
plenty
don't
of
think
snow.
there is snow in Africa, but
Well,
you know.
top of Mount
Climate
Kilimanjaro.
change, climate change.
The problem is that snow's white, so it's white prejudice. That's the issue. Baby, it's cold outside has faced criticism from the Me Too movement. I mean, it is quite cold outside, baby. But anyways, moving on.
No, it is a song about coercive control. Which
No,
I
but
actually,
fine,
I
but
would
the point
say
is-
that
Hold on,
probably-
hold on. Let
We
Lucy have her say.
can't
No,
keep
hold on,
airbrushing history.
Let
It is
Lucy
a
have her say.
very uncomfortable song to listen to. If you listen to the lyrics at all, it's basically
it's a
woman.
weird song.
Oh, it is a horrible song. And actually, as a university student, we did a skit on it, which basically was about someone trying to be very predatory. So that song can just be consigned to history.
Forget
Oh,
that
yes,
song.
it can.
Yeah, that song can go away. But Jingle Bells,
Bells?
do they know it's Christmas? I mean, what next? You can't even wear Christmas jumpers any. Well, this one probably should
can.
be pixelated with the big Union Jack on it. But anyway, say on.
Do you know what? I watched Meet Me in St. Louis last night for the first time ever, which is a marvellously absurd and ridiculous film, but it does have a brilliant song in it, which is, of course, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and it's Judy Garland singing it rather than Frank Sinatra, and it was...
You are recommending a Judy Garland song.
It's a Christmas miracle.
So, yeah, I'm afraid so. I did once say to a friend who then couldn't breathe because she was laughing so much for the next 2 minutes that I said I'm very much the Mickey Rooney to your Judy Garland at one point. That was rather amusing. Listen, a very Merry Christmas
Merry
to you
Christmas
both.
to you too.
I hope you have a lovely Christmas wherever you're spending it.
Thank you.
And to Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, who's a Conservative councillor and political commentator, and Lucy Beresford, who is a broadcaster, psychotherapist, author and queen amongst women. So thank you for all of that, and to Dean in East London as well, who says if people really think the Tories have changed, they are still part of the Uni Party, they need to change and give someone else a go, says Dean. And Rach in Newcastle says, at the time Liz Truss came out with a budget, I thought this is Conservative, then everyone went out to destroy her. Now everyone is basically calling for what she had in her budget. The media is part of the reason we're not in this mess. We should have Liz Truss stay, says Rach in Newcastle. Well, I'm afraid I totally disagree with that. I think she was an absolutely dreadful Prime Minister, and Kwasi Kwarteng the worst Chancellor we've ever had. Rachel Reeves, not much better, it must be said. You think I'm talking sense, or maybe you think I'm talking absolute nonsense? Whatever you think, give me a call, 0344 499 1000. We'll speak to Matt Vickers from the Conservatives. Plenty more guests coming up between now and 1 o'clock here on Talk. Stay with us.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good morning. This is Talk. Thank you so much for your company. I'm Peter Cardwell here until 1 o'clock, and then I'm off for Christmas, back on the 29th with mid-morning. Almost all that week, actually. I'll be doing mid-morning between 10 and 1. Today, of course, lots to talk about. Kemi Badenoch closing in on Nigel Farage, perhaps. She's up to 22% in one poll. Also, there's outrage as a migrant drug dealer who groped two women has been allowed to stay in the UK, and fury as a top French official says the number of small boat migrant crossings is not huge. Also, a story in the front page of the Sunday Telegraph talking about the majority of Jews not feeling safe in Britain. What do you think about that? We'll talk to Andy Williams as well a little bit later on. We'll talk to Nicole Lambert about the watchdog ordering the West Midlands Police to explain the Tel Aviv ban of Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. Have been recalled to Parliament. It is very, very embarrassing for them. And we'll get the Christmas travel as well if you're heading away. Perhaps this weekend, maybe you're in your car right now and you're heading away. We'll get all the information from Simon Calder to all of that. But thank you so much to everybody who's been in touch. The ways to do that are 0344 499 1000 for phone calls. You can give me a text on 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a voice note, less than a minute please. We'll have some of those in a minute or two. Tech Up Dave is working through them as we speak. We will also take WhatsApp text messages. You can send those through on the main number and give me a ring on the main number as well, 0344 499 1000. Loads to discuss between now and 1 o'clock here on Talk. Alex Wilson is a Reform UK London Assembly member. Alex, you're very welcome to the programme. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Peter. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Alex. An end-of-year survey puts Kemi Badenoch's party on 22%. Should Nigel Farage and you and Reform UK be worried that she's catching up with you?
Well, in your introduction, you referred to one poll showing this, and that's absolutely right. It's just one single poll. You should never get too carried away by an individual poll that either says something that seems, over the top and too pleasing for you, or the reverse.
And you're absolutely, Alex, you're absolutely right, and that is a very, very fair point. This poll puts you and Reform UK simply at 25%, but for all of this year, every single poll this year, every single published poll in 2025, political poll, has put Reform UK ahead. What has happened though recently, and you'll have seen this, and it is a trend, is Reform UK seems to have maybe hit a ceiling or maybe gone down ever so slightly. Do you feel that that's it, that's the ceiling, and maybe you've just got to hold fast for the next 3 years between now and the election, Alex?
You're right, 3 years is a long time to go, and we have to keep the momentum up. That's why doing the work we're doing on the ground in forming the branches, standing in council by-elections. The last 5 months we've only missed one council by-election in terms of having a candidate standing in them, and obviously we've been winning a lot of those as well. Only this week, 5 by-elections, Reform won 3 of them, taking a seat with a huge swing from Labour in Blackpool and an even bigger swing from the Conservatives in Suffolk, where the Conservatives who had been defending the seat fell into third place behind not just ourselves but behind the Greens as well. So real votes in real ballot boxes are showing a very, very strong position for Reform, and the polls are as well. You said we've been leading for a long time. We have basically every poll since the middle of April, not quite since the beginning of the year, but since the middle of April, every poll has shown Reform in the lead. That's about 190 consecutive opinion polls. From May onwards, we've been averaging around about 30% there or thereabouts. And indeed, in the other polls that came out this week, of the pollsters that poll fairly regularly, Find Out Now had us on 33, which was up 2 on the previous week, and YouGov 28 up 1 on the previous week, and Opinion 31%, which was no change on their poll a fortnight previously. So the overall trend is still pretty clear. Obviously, we're not complacent. No one can take anything for granted. We know from experience polls can go down as well as up, but we're very confident we're finishing this year in a very strong position, having won the local elections in May, having won more seats in council elections and by-elections combined than any other party this year, having gained 100 seats in by-elections alone since the general election, which is the first party to do that. And yes, that poll position is still looking very, very strong. But we're going into the new year with big challenges ahead. The local elections, some of which maybe cancelled.
Yeah, tell me what you think about that, Alex, actually, because a lot of people are saying that they're not so much cancelled as postponed, but if it's 1 year, I think maybe we can swallow that. Maybe that's something that is just about all right. 2 years, though, if there are councillors who were elected 5 years ago who should be elected, and then they say actually it's going to take another 2 years, should there be an election in the middle of that, just for a 2-year period, do you think?
I think so, because otherwise you'll be in this position where some of these councillors who were elected originally for a 4-year term, by the time their councils are wound up and they're dissolved and the new unitaries come into place, assuming those do actually happen, they will have served a 7-year term, so almost double the period that they were elected to. They have no mandate to do that, and it's quite telling that although it's the government that's floated the idea of cancelling these elections, the first 2 councils out of the blocks to say yes, we want to cancel them were East Sussex and West Sussex, both Conservative-led councils. So it's all the other parties are looking for excuses in certain areas to do this. Reform is the only party that absolutely, clearly, unambiguously is saying democracy has to prevail. The right to vote is a fundamental part of everything that matters to us as a country and as a democracy.
Totally
and for
agree.
that to be curtailed is an absolute disgrace.
Totally agree. Let's talk about a couple of stories. French officials saying the number of small boat migrant crossings is not huge. One of the stories around today. Well, it's over 40,000, so it is pretty big.
It's remarkable, but both the scale of illegal migration, but also this French official's response. I understand he's the equivalent of the head of Border Force, so a very senior person within their border security apparatus, and it certainly doesn't seem not huge to the people that I talk to. And having seen record numbers, I think we're now on around 41,000 that have crossed this year, or certainly will be over 41,000 by the time we get to the turn of the year, which is a significant uplift on last year. Starmer talked about smashing the gangs. The only thing that's been smashed is the records here. So it is a huge problem. The cost of putting these up in the hotels was £8 million a day, I think, thereabouts. And it's you and I as British taxpayers that are picking up the bill. Okay. And then add to that the security implications. We have lots of women and young ladies and girls in particular scared for their safety in the areas surrounded by these hotels. It's a huge problem, and it's a problem that the French, on their current leadership, won't deal with. The British government, under its current leadership, talks a good game increasingly, but because they're not prepared to tackle those fundamental legal obstacles, ECHR, they're not going to tackle it either. It needs a change of government, change of heart. It needs reform.
Alex, thank you very much indeed. Merry Christmas to you and your family. That's Alex Wilson there, who's a Reform UK London Assembly member. I want to go to the Shadow Home Office Minister, Matt Vickers, now for the Conservatives. Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tell me what you think about this poll. That it's only one poll, though, that puts your party on 22% to Reform UK's 25%. Clearly, there is some form of movement here. You'll talk about Kemi Badenoch doing better in her performances, which I think she probably is. But Reform's still out ahead. They've been ahead in over 190 polls. Maybe now is the time, actually, to say you're coming together in the polls. Even put together, would you actually be a majority in terms of numbers, in terms of MPs? What is your feeling about some sort of electoral pact or even coalition?
Peter, you think she might be doing better? You know she's doing a cracking job, actually.
She is doing better. She is doing better. I wouldn't say she's doing a cracking job, but she's definitely doing better than she was.
The reality is it's a very tough job, actually. When we got our backsides handed to us at the last general election, anybody thought that overnight we were going to come back and sort ourselves out instantly was wrong. We had to go away. We had to reflect on the message that the British people have sent us, dust ourselves off, come up with our offering to the British people, and that's exactly what she's doing. She wasn't rushed. She wasn't pushed around. She held the line. She's gone out there, looked at what people have got to say, and has come up with real solutions. We've got a real borders plan. It requires us to leave the ECHR. It requires all sorts of things that she's put in line, whether it's that cap on the number of legal migrants, whether it be the fact that we're going to deport anybody who arrives here illegally, all those things that were put in place on borders. Then on the economy, you see what she pledged on the economy, £47 billion of saving, reducing the bloated welfare bill, reducing the number of civil servants here in Westminster, getting a real grip on our economy so that hardworking people out there pay less in tax and know that their money is being spent properly.
But you know when the Conservatives were in government, when Conservatives were in government, Matt, the level of taxation was the highest since the Second World War as a proportion of what the country earned. there may be 22% of people who are considering voting Conservative. Kemi Badenoch may well be doing better, but you're really at Everest Base Camp here, aren't you, if you're talking about the thoughts of a Conservative government. OK, 3 years is a long time, an awful lot can happen, but the wind's against you here.
Tell me why taxes were so high before the election, Peter. Why was it? What was it that forced us to support taxes?
It was because of the bailouts, because of COVID and all the rest of it. I get that, but nonetheless...
There you have it.
Well, it could have been...
The reality is that people out there know that we're the people on the side of hard-working taxpayers. There's a big divide in British politics at the moment.
You still put taxes up. It wasn't just COVID. You still put taxes up dozens of times, Matt. Listen, I think
this government does not have a pandemic. It isn't even involved in a war, and taxes are through the roof. They're at record levels. And why are they at record levels? Because they're blowing it all on welfare. Was it £23 billion of increased spending, throwing money at people who aren't working while other people have to pick up that tab? We've said you need real welfare reform. In fact, that's the dividing line. We're on the side of people who work hard, who pay into this system, who pay for public services and pay for people who aren't working. The welfare system in this country needs to be a safety net, not a choice. Everybody else is telling you they would remove that, reform, Labour. They want to remove that two-child cap. They want to see ever more spent on welfare. They want to go around nationalising everything that moves. If you want a government that's fiscally responsible, that's going to help people who work hard, who try to create jobs, who try to deliver that economic growth, the people who run the pub, who run the little shop down the high street, you need to vote Conservative.
Let's talk a little bit about what your rivals are saying. Anna Turley was on Sky News this morning and said this about Keir Starmer's prospects.
Is Keir Starmer still going to be leader of your party next Christmas?
Of course, absolutely. As I said, people will really start to see and feel the change in their pockets. Keir's got a very clear vision for making sure that people can really deal with the cost of living, that public services will get back on their knees, on their feet. And he's building a Britain that is one that is tolerant, that is open, that is confident in itself, and that is really about renewal and investment in young people, as opposed to the division and the decline of the opposition. And I've sat around that cabinet table, and there is a team there that are ruthlessly focused on delivering on their day-to-day basis, whether it's the NHS, whether it's education, whether it's defence, whether it's housing. This is a team behind him that's determined to deliver on the promises that we made last year and to support a Prime Minister that's got a clear vision for a renewal of this country against division and decline that the opposition offer.
Tesco. Well, in fairness to Anna Turley, she did she had a pretty robust defence there of Keir Starmer. Matt Vickers, what do you think of what she said?
The election dodger that is Anna Turley. She during that interview, she wouldn't commit to the fact that Labour won't put back a general election. We've seen them run away from elections. Why is that? Because they've broken... Tell me one promise that they've kept, Peter. They're breaking every promise they've made, whether it be to the farmers, whether it be to the pensioners, whether it be to those small business people who are now seeing their business rates trebled. They're being slammed for the jobs tax that Labour brought forward. They're being absolutely
let's get into some of that. Okay, Matt. Would you reverse business rates? Would you bring business rates for government, for pubs, for example, for small businesses? I had a viewer listener get in touch. Would you reverse that? Would you scrap the national insurance rises, for example?
What they did, the small business rates.
What about you?
We had it in place. They were getting a 40% discount as a result of the Conservatives. And people know that the Conservatives are on the side of people who want to work hard, the people who want to create jobs. The reality is 21% more people are unemployed. That isn't by accident. It's because of what this government has done. We will look at what mess is left. The reality is, they're on about delaying a general election now. She wouldn't commit to not delaying the general election.
They're not going to delay the general election, are they? Are they honestly? The local elections is appalling, and I don't think should happen.
You watch Big Trev's interview. They've delayed these local elections. That means some councillors are getting 7 years in office. She was asked, would there be any circumstances in which she might delay
the point is,
election, and she wouldn't commit.
But the point is, Matt, there are Conservative councils already which have said, that's fine, we'll do these elections in a few years' time.
There are thousands of councillors across this country, and you've managed to find 2 councils who are quite happy to see their elections.
Yeah, but the point is, the reality is. But hold on, Matt. Hold on a second.
Block the legislation that are allowing these elections to be delayed. We had the candidates in place. We were ready to fight that.
But the point is, but you cannot say, okay, it's 2 councils, but you cannot say, okay, There's still Conservative councils. Hold on.
The legislation.
Let me speak for a second. Matt, you've got to let me speak for a second. As a Christmas present to me, let me talk for 20 seconds. The point is that you have you and James Cleverly. The other day I spoke to James Cleverly, the former Home Secretary and Foreign Secretary, who's now the shadow local government secretary, who said, we oppose this, we think it's dreadful, we shouldn't be doing this, democracy denied, and all the rest of it. Yet you have Conservative councils, okay, only 2 of them, but there will be more, who say, bring it on.
Conservative councils are ready to fight these elections. The mayoral elections, we'd selected incredible candidates who were going to go out there and take
You agree with the postponement, but some of your colleagues agree with the postponement.
None of my no colleagues.
Well, the Conservative councils have
Conservative. You haven't found an MP who supports this position.
Councillors are in your party. Councillors are in your party, and they're your colleagues, Matt, and they've said this is fine.
You've found 2 councils. There are thousands of councils across this country. The reality is these elections can only take place because of legislation that was laid in Parliament that allowed them to do so. It's the Conservatives who opposed that, who fought it, who led the fight against allowing.
But those 2 Conservative councils don't oppose it. They're happy to say, bring on the council alliances for another 2 years. They're also members of your party.
I can find a journalist who might agree with them.
You're talking out of both sides of your mouth, Matt.
I'm not. This is the Conservative Party's position. We went in there and walked through those lobbies to vote against.
And you've got councillors in your party who are against that. Are they hypocrites?
There's lots of councillors across the country who have lots of different views on lots of things, but we're team players.
They aren't. They're not team players. They're not signed up to your policy. They're happy to take the alliances for another 2 years.
I'm sure you'll be able to find a Conservative. Well, I'm sure you'll be able to find a council somewhere with all sorts of views and all sorts of things. 2 councils across the country. The Conservative policy is that we would carry on with these elections. In fact, we voted for it. Kemi led the campaign to get these elections done, to carry on, so that people could have their say. It's not acceptable that there are councils out there 7 years.
2 other quick
on the back of one.
Okay, 2 other quick things I want to chat to you before you go. What do you think about this migrant drug dealer who groped 2 women allowed to stay in the UK? Is this something, well, obviously, I expect you're against it, but could withdrawing from the ECHR prevent these kind of things happening?
Utterly appalling. Utterly appalling. We've said that we would leave the ECHR so that these judges cannot take this interventionist approach. The decisions about who can and cannot come to this country and who can and cannot stay in this country should be made by the people that are elected to make those decisions, not by judges deciding their own interpretation of what has and hasn't gone on. Nobody out there can realistically think that this is acceptable. We brought forward amendments in the House of Commons. We voted on this. We are completely against the idea that these criminals are allowed to stay in this country. They should be deported immediately.
And what do you think of this top French official saying the number of small boat migrant crossings is not huge?
It's utterly balmy. But then again, he has an alternative view to us. We apparently have a deal with them via Keir Starmer that was going to have 1 in, 1 out, and it's what is it now?
We paid them £500 million under you. We paid them £500 million under you guys. They don't seem to get it.
99.5% of the people who came in the 1 in, 1 out scheme have been able to stay. It's the boomerang scheme. It's utterly ridiculous, utterly appalling. We need to be deporting the people who arrive in this country. No ifs, no buts.
Matt, over the course of 2025, you have taken my questions on frequent occasions. I think I might have interviewed you more than any other politician. You've always engaged with a great level of straightforwardness, and you've never walked off in a huff. So I just want to say a Merry Christmas to you and to your loved ones, and I'll see you in 2026.
Thank you very much. Have a good Christmas, and everybody at home, have a good Christmas. Work hard, vote Conservative.
Cheers, Matt. That's Matt Vickers there, who is the Shadow Home Office Minister. Thank you very much to him. Leslie says voters will not make the same mistake next time by not voting in the general election. They have seen the catastrophic results of a Labour government due to apathy. Colin said what voters need to remember at the next general election is that Conservatives have wrought really, really terrible changes on this country, particularly in regard to immigration, that are irreversible. They must never be forgiven for that. Another person says there are certain demographics who will get out to vote often in blocks. If the rest of the population can't be bothered to, they get what they deserve. Betty says, I raised the coalition result months ago. There will be a Labour Liberal Democrat fruit and nut coalition by Tory and Reform. You know Zara Sultana, whose surname is Sultana, which is actually a fruit, says that if you point that out, you're racist. Yeah. Betty continues, the decider will be a supply agreement by DUP or SNP Greens. So we go back to the joys of the early 90s. The electoral numbers are clear. Reform peaked at 38 to 42%. And if they go centre to collect more votes, risk losing 2 to 3%. PR is part of a coalition deal and a snap election 2 years later, says Betty. That is the prediction there. And Bob Mankin in Aberdeen says, I live in Scotland. The laws are different to England. So we've had two-tier laws for years on what I consider one country of the UK during COVID. I heard on the radio the government said I could now drive to a destination to exercise pets. I drove to a park 2 miles from my house and was met by 3 police officers who threatened to arrest me for breaking COVID rules. When I pointed out that I heard that said that's English law, I pointed out I was English. They were less amused at that point. Well, I hope you certainly weren't arrested. We'll take more of your calls, texts, tweets and voice notes after the break. Lots more to come between now and 1 o'clock. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to everybody who's been in touch, including Elisa in Chelmsford, who sent this voice note in.
Hi, Peter. This is to Matthew and Lucy. What the man on the street wants is this. Enough of the uni party, because they are the uni party, just passing the baton backwards and forwards. They want immigration sorted out first. That's top of the list. And stop the dinghies and stop the legal migration as well. Enough. Then they want law and order sorted out, because at the moment, you know, if you put a hurry word on Twitter, you get 18 months in prison. Yet if you sell drugs, you get allowed to stay in the UK and you're groping women. And then the third thing they want is the taxes down. But the first is immigration, illegal immigration, law and order, and then their taxes come down. You're not reading the room, okay? The people on the street have had enough of this government and the last government.
Thanks very much indeed for that. That's not Elisa in Chelmsford, actually. Elisa in Chelmsford is coming up in just a minute or two, but thank you to the person who sent that in, and thanks to all the tweets that are coming in as well. Get our country back, says that MP Anna Turley, talking absolute bunkum. That clip we played from Sky News a little bit earlier on, she was talking to Trevor Phillips. Richard Taylor says, let's just say in an ever-moving feast, and what policy is today, it'll be likely different in 6 months' time. Angela says, no answers from Matt Vickers there. Please don't trust the Tories. They gaslight us like Labour. The Tories cancelled our elections. Well, Angela, they postponed them. They didn't cancel them, they postponed them. But I know what you mean, and you're right to be angry. Susan says, spending a lot of time focused on one poll poll, yet doesn't mention another 2 that came out giving Reform a 9-point lead and a 10-point lead. Sounds like a party political broadcast for the Conservatives, despite Conservative councils cancelling elections. Susan, do you honestly think it was a party political broadcast for the Conservatives? My interview with Matt Vickers, I think I challenged him quite robustly on a number of things. Neil says the largest hypocrite of the year award goes to Matt Vickers. Well done. Let's speak to Daniel in Epsom about the Conservatives. Daniel, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hiya, Peter. I'm afraid that, I mean, I was a Conservative for many, many years. I ran for them, campaigned for them, but the reality of what they should have done when they lost the last election, they should have been honest with themselves and said, right, we lost because we're 2 parties in one. You've got half the party that are actually of the right, and then you've got the other half that are the con-socialists, the centrists, the Lib Dems in blue ties. And the latter group are why they lost. And the latter group are also why people like me will never go back to voting Conservative, because they can't be trusted. You know, they haven't cleaned their house out. They haven't said, right, we lost because we were centrist, con-socialist, and we inactive, and we didn't do anything, and we weren't concise, and we weren't of the right. That's why we lost. What they should have done straight away is got rid of all of those centrists and con-socialists, but they didn't, okay? And that's why now we can't vote for them, because essentially, let's say they won again, and we said, right, we now want the borders closed. They'll be like, half of the party will be saying they can leave the ECHR, and the other half won't. So they can't be trusted.
Well,
Peter.
they're very, very divided, certainly on that ECHR aspect of things, the European Convention on Human Rights. Daniel, thanks for your point. I think all of what you say is perfectly reasonable. Matt in Runcorn has texted me to say, honestly, Peter, Matt Vickers, these measures by Labour are destroying our economy and growth. To which I said, so you'll reverse them? And then Matt said, oh, we can't possibly commit to that now. Honestly, to quote your colleague Ian Collins, Matt Vickers, get in the bin, says Matt in Runcorn. Amanda in London says, Peter, Jews are not feeling safe here. It is an utter disgrace and a stain on our country. It's high time the focus moved to those who hate this country and we all stand for. This evil must be eradicated from our society so patriotic British Jews can live without fear, says Amanda in London. Let's speak to Ashley in London who has some views on this. 0344 499 1000 is the number Ashley has called. How are you doing, mate? What would you like to say?
Morning, Merry Christmas to you. And yeah, well, I'm okay. I walk up and down my street, in at my high street, pulling off all sorts of boycott stickers every single day. They're going up, and you know, we look. Do you know what? We're British Jews. We love our country. We are patriotic. We live our lives in peace. And what we're getting at the moment, the way we feel, is irrespective of what people think, that we are entitled to an opinion on whether we believe that the state, for instance, the state of Israel has a right of existence, which we do. We don't always agree with everything that a government does. However,
and nor should you be held responsible for it, Ashley.
No, exactly. And we are shouted down, this loud mob with their mobile phones screaming, shouting genocide, don't actually realise that the very people that are controlling and setting out, i.e. the Muslim Brotherhood, that's not to be conflated with your general Muslim person.
No, of course, and you're not doing that. But the point is, and one point I would add to what you're saying is that the Muslim Brotherhood is not a prescribed organisation here in the UK, which I think is outrageous.
Well, it's pretty much all over the Arab world. It is, these people that are. You know, these people going around screaming, shouting, blood libels about us Jews, these teachings in our universities, the demonisation of us. When you look at what we bring, I'd like to think that we bring quite a lot to the country. We like to be part of it. We integrate. Now, these people that are trying to destroy that, one day, hopefully not too late, that a lot of these typical British people also that are going along with these protests will wake up and hopefully not too late to realise that what these people's goals are not just about us Jews, but also about them and their faith and their religion and their way of life. Because these people that are controlling this against us, I mean, I'm worried about not so much me, I'm worried about my kids. Yeah. I'm 53. Kids, I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about, please God, my grandkids.
Well, also, it's not just worries about their safety as well, Ashley, because of the appalling levels of anti-Semitism in this country. It's also what the survey said. This is the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, which says, which has has a poll out saying 61% of the Jewish community considering moving abroad. Now, I don't know about you, Ashley, I presume you yourself are not thinking of moving abroad, but if you've got kids or grandkids who are coming up thinking, where am I going to live my life? Where am I going to settle down, have kids, whatever? I mean, there's so many people. There's one person I know quite well, actually, a young Jewish woman. She's really talented, really brilliant brain, very positive person in her workplace. She's moving to Israel in January because she just sees a better future there.
Well, I think as mad as people don't necessarily understand is that actually it is kind of safer in an area where you have all these issues than it is walking around your street, seeing what's happening.
And that's appalling.
And wondering what's going to happen. And no, I'm not thinking about moving, but, you look at, it's funny, it goes around in a circle because you think about the Second World War, and I recently came back from places like Budapest and Vienna, and I look at that and I look at how life is for Jews in those areas, and I think, actually, I'm saying, it's better in somewhere like Budapest for me.
Do you know what's really interesting, Ashley? I don't know if you know this from your travel to Budapest. I have a really good friend who was in Budapest a few months ago, and there's actually a quarter of the Jewish quarter of Budapest that was you maybe know this, was really derogatorily known. It was a kind of an insult to call it Judapest. And what they've done now is they've reclaimed that name, and there's actually a shop there which is called simply Judapest, and it sells all sorts of things, menorahs and all sorts of Jewish sort of religious paraphernalia, as well as other things like a lovely pair of socks with the Star of David on that my friend brought me back from the lovely shop of Judapest. So they're reclaiming that. They're not ashamed of it. They're very, very, very proud, as they should be, of their Judaism.
It's really very welcoming, and it's kind of a breath of air for us. And I'm not looking for, look, I don't expect everyone to like everyone. I really don't. However, this is what people don't seem to understand about anti-Semitism is that someone like me who is not religious, who doesn't particularly take offence to huge amounts of stuff, that are sitting there with a very uncomfortable undertone about what's happening here. Yet when I walk into somewhere like Budapest, I've actually felt at home. Walking through the Jewish quarter, it's lovely to see that actually you can be who you are without having to worry about it.
And you should, and I wish you felt that way in London. I really do. Ashley, we've just got to leave it there. But thank you so much, and I wish you a very happy Christmas and happy Hanukkah as well. That is Ashley in London there. He just speaks such total sense. He rings in every now and again, and he really speaks a lot of sense. The previous voice note, apologies, was from Karen. I got that wrong. Apologies for that. And this voice note is from Elisa in Chelmsford. This is what she has to say.
A very good morning to you, Peter. The issue with the Conservatives has nothing to do with policies. It's all about trust. They had some good policies before, but they didn't uphold them. They've lost the trust of the electorate, and I really don't know how they regain it. In recent months, I've attended some reform events, and I cannot tell you how enthused that party is. I see young and elderly, people of all ages, being very worried about the current government, but also very excited and very hopeful for the future. But they need more people to step up to support them, of course. Now, regarding the survey that British Jews don't feel safe, I'd like to thank you, Peter, for being a rock to us British Jews. You and your team have been incredible, and I'd like to wish you and all of your team a very Merry Christmas.
That means an awful lot. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Elisa. I also think there's a certain sadness in it that it's lovely of you to say it. I really, really appreciate it. But there's a certain sadness too that people feel, as you do and some others have, to say thanks. I mean, it's really kind of you to do that, and I'm not ungrateful in any way. In fact, I'm very grateful. But what does it say about our society that a section of our society has to thank another section of society for standing up for what's right, for what's moral, and for the fact that people should not be victims of racism, because that is what anti-Semitism is. I feel very, very strongly about it. As you know, lots more to discuss, including Andy Williams' views on the world. He will be with us in studio in just a second. Stay with us.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Well, on Christmas Day, if you really have nothing better to do, at 11 o'clock, the best of Peter Cardwell will be on. That will last 2 minutes. No, it's an hour, actually. I didn't even know it was happening. I just saw it on the schedule. I just thought, okay, fair enough. Great stuff. I'll be back. This is my last show before Christmas, and then I'll be back on the 29th, Monday the 29th, and I will be here for the mid-morning shows most of that week, although on the Thursday I'm doing the breakfast show, New Year's Day, because I don't drink, and I'm not a massive New Year's person, so I've valiantly volunteered for that one. Almost as if there's some schedule changes or something. Sean says, don't put it past Labour to manufacture a crisis to avoid a general election in 2029, a proxy war, a dodgy pandemic, or how about replacing the House of Lords with an elected second chamber that will take years to organise? That's Sean in Bridlington there. Brad in Cambridge says the main reason the Tories have risen in the polls, and not just Kemi's performance, they've risen, the rise has coincided with the Tories finally announcing that they would leave the ECHR. It's a very fair point there, Brad, and ECHR is something we'll continue to talk about. Matt Vickers, I talked to him about that. You let him off the hook, Peter. Yours was the most pertinent question. If these budget measures are so damaging, can he commit to reversing them? He ducked it completely and you let him. This is exactly why so many of us are disillusioned with how the political process works. Have a peaceful Christmas, Peter, says Matt in Runcorn. I did ask him about it a couple of times. I did say, are you going to reverse the business rates rise? Are you going to reverse the national insurance rise? If he didn't answer, he didn't answer. Not much more I can do about that, I suppose. Although, well, maybe I should have been harder. But thank you for that and happy Christmas to you. And a final one before our next guest from Alistair. He says, hi Peter, once again the Conservative Party shows us why they can't be trusted. Matt Vickers ignores your question and then simply tries to gaslight us on the fact that these Conservative councils have asked to postpone the elections. It's the same old Tory party just trying to masquerade as something different. They have betrayed us repeatedly and failed to address these issues when they were in office, so why on earth would we trust them now? Great show, by the way, says Alistair. Well, thank you for that. Well, for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm delighted to be in the company of the political commentator, Andy Williams. Lovely to see you, Andy.
Good to see you too. The best of Peter Cardwell.
I know.
Amazing.
I know.
No, when Alan Partridge is asked what's his favourite Beatles album, and he said, I think I'd probably have to say the best of the Beatles.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Well,
not comparing you to Partridge, of course.
I mean, there is one presenter of this session who's basically living in the Linton Travel Tavern at the moment during the week, so I wouldn't like to say who that is. Anyway, Andy Williams is here for many, many reasons. He gives us a different perspective. He's a Labour supporter. He's a political commentator. He has a very, very interesting views. And he's also here in the studio today because...
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
I mean, you knew that was coming, didn't you?
I did, yeah. No, it's lovely to hear, and such an original take on my namesake.
How often what's part of the year do people start saying?
Well, I mean, obviously it's around this time.
But is it sort of December or kind of like start of December? And it's like, oh well, it is the most wonderful. And then is it as if you, being called Andy Williams, have never heard that before?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, it's not that bad actually, because it tends to be people of a certain generation, younger people.
Right.
Haven't
calling me
heard
old,
of
is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm saying it'd be worse if I was called Harry Potter or.
Good point. Yeah.
It's actually not
I mean,
that
the
bad.
people I worry about are. Until 1993, it was fine being called Fred West, and then your life, changes. In fact, believe it or not, I mean, I jest, but I spoke to a guy in New Zealand. I've told this story on the air before. I spoke to a guy in New Zealand called David Gray, and I was chatting to him one time. So, David Gray, like the singer. And he said, oh no, actually I had to take 6 months off work with stress because there was a sort of mass shooter in New Zealand. Doesn't happen very often. New Zealand's a generally very, very peaceful country, called David Gray.
God.
And his life changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Like people were saying, oh, you're going to shoot me, and just little jokes and jibes and things. And it was nothing to do with him. He just happened to be called it. Anyway, listen, lots to talk about. There have been many polls, over 190 of them actually, that have put Reform UK as the leaders. Another one does that as well today. But Kemi Badenoch and her party, Conservatives, now up at 22%. We're not going to get too excited about simply one poll. Reform down to 25% in that poll. But there does seem to be a little bit of a shift in Kemi Badenoch's fortunes and in the Conservative Party's fortunes. Is that a fair thing to say, do you think?
I think I think she's definitely in a better position today than she was 6 months ago.
Yep.
She seems to have struck a better balance between being, one of the things about Kemi Badenoch is she she just doesn't connect with people very well. I don't just mean voters, I mean generally. If you speak to people who've worked with her, you don't get a brilliant readout, is the truth. I mean, I'm sure some people would say nice things about her, but there are probably more people she's worked with who wouldn't say nice things than would.
She's certainly a strong personality, and
and that's not a bad thing.
Actually, Margaret Thatcher was a tough person to work with, for example, and just because someone's tough to work with and demands high standards doesn't necessarily mean, your boss doesn't need to be your best friend.
No, absolutely, it's a very fair point, and I think she's striking a better balance there. She's obviously had some good weeks at PMQs. She's had some sort of notable wins in terms of shifting Labour Party policy. I still don't think she is somebody who is a credible or serious candidate to be Prime Minister. And I still think, on balance, she won't be leading the Conservatives into the next election, because I just cannot see how I'm not sure that this one poll does represent much of a shift, actually, and I think fundamentally that vote is so split on the right. I mean, this is a problem for Reform as well. Actually, if Kemi Badenoch is doing a bit better, that is a big problem for them, because the 30% mark they've been hovering around for 9 months or so now.
And they're down to 25% in this poll.
25% means you are not going to form the next government. 30 means you could.
And possibly in coalition with them, or, I mean, look, it's a long way off, and there are a lot of things that could happen.
Can I just say, one other thing about Kemi is, in policy terms, I think what she recognises, and I believe this is absolutely the right strategy, is that the best chance of them reversing their fortunes is being really strong on the economy. Because that's
not the ECHR?
Personally, I mean, my views on the ECHR are well established, but putting that to one side, I really don't believe that a significant groundswell of public opinion cares about the ECHR. People who phone in to talk, absolutely. But your average voter doesn't care. What they do care about...
They do care about fairness, and the average voter does care about people saying, my human rights are breached if I can't have a family life and you're being convicted of paedophilia.
I'm very confident that if you did a poll that said, do you understand what the ECHR is, a very small proportion...
You don't need to understand exactly what the ECHR is to understand what the effect of the ECHR is.
Well, to have a legitimate, credible view on whether we should be part of it or not, you should understand it. This is the problem I had with the Brexit referendum, is that the European Union is actually a very complicated institution, and if you ask the average voter, and this is not being patronising, it's just a fact, what's the difference between the single market, the customs union, and the European Union? No,
but
it's true.
I mean, how many people have sat down and read every single word of Labour's manifesto and then said, right, I'm going to vote Labour?
No,
or
I totally, totally understand that.
Referenda, having an opinion on something, you don't necessarily need to know every single thing about it.
No, you should have a grasp of the issue, though.
But I think people do have a grasp of the issue because they see the effect of the issue. They say, if someone says, well, the European Convention on Human Rights means that I can't be repatriated to wherever I come from because I say I have a right to family life, and that's one of the tenets of the ECHR, one of these rights, one of these articles, right to a family life, and that's the reason I'm staying in this country. People may not know what the other tenets are. They may not have a view on right to privacy. They may not have a right to a view on what the ECHR says about free speech, or originally in 1951 about capital punishment, which I was fine with, by the way. But they know what the effect is and they have an opinion on it.
So my argument is, if you want to capture the maximum number of voters, which surely has to be the Tories' objective, you stand a better chance of doing that, in my view, by saying, we're going to take a different approach to Labour on the economy. We're going to be, they've set out, is it 40 or 57 billion pounds of spending cuts? They would therefore cut taxes to, improve the chances of businesses, particularly small businesses, looked at business rates. I think those things are, that package of measures and that very different approach to Labour, which basically is abandoning the private sector. Let's be honest, if you look at Rachel Reeves' budget, that is where they stand a better chance of securing a bigger group of voters than maybe focusing on the ECHR.
We're going to talk more to Andy specifically about Labour, and we'll take a couple of calls with him after the break as well. I want to ask him about what Anna Turley, who has been saying about the Labour Party as well. She's a cabinet minister. Paul in Milton Keynes says Matt Vickers is living in cloud 9. This is the Conservative person I spoke to a little bit earlier on, Shadow Minister. The Tories raised taxes in the last 2 years of the government. He said reform will scrape the 2-child cap. Well, they actually stated they would scrap this for British working families, not those in benefits. The reason for this is working couples are not having children due to the cost, and the general population of Britain is declining, not for foreign nationals. Sorry, Matt Vickers doesn't have his facts right. The Tory councillors in East and West Sussex were the first to take up Labour's offer to postpone the elections, depriving 1.4 million voters. Paul, I think you're right, certainly on the final point. I totally agree with you, and he said it, 2 councils. Let's not get too excited. There are going to be a lot more that come and say, we are going to do that. And they're actually going to say, and James cleverly, in fairness, engaged with this point on Friday when I spoke to him, they'll say, we're backed into a corner here. We can't not do this. We have to do this for all the reasons central government are putting this on us. Are we okay to call Conservatives hypocrites for going for those elections? Personally, I would argue, and I'll talk to Andy Williams about this in a second, if you have a 2-year extension, well, there should be another election in the middle of that. One more message before the break. Please go back to the question you asked about the budget decisions and whether he will commit to reversing them. If he feels so strongly it's an easy yes, anything other than a yes is a no. And in fairness, I did ask him a couple of times on that. Maybe I could have asked him even more times, but I promise you the next time I'm Conservative on, I'll say, will you reverse national insurance rises? It's a big thing. And of course, we can see in the front page of the Mail on Sunday that Rachel Reeves is barred from her local boozer. Let's find out what Andy thinks about that. And you too, in just a second. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
James and Chris are on the line. We'll take those calls in just a second, but Andy Williams, the political commentator, is with me. And I just want to play, all of us really, a clip of Anna Turley, the Cabinet Minister, talking to Sky News a little bit earlier on, her view on Keir Starmer's prospects for 2026.
Is Keir Starmer still going to be leader of your party next Christmas?
Of course, absolutely. As I said, people will really start to see and feel the change in their pockets. Keir's got a very clear vision for making sure that people can really deal with the cost of living, that public services will get back on their knees, on their feet. And he's building a Britain that is one that is tolerant, that is open, that is confident in itself, and that is really about renewal and investment in young people, as opposed to the division and the decline of the opposition. And I've sat around that cabinet table, and there is a team there that are ruthlessly focused on delivering on their day-to-day basis, whether it's the NHS, whether it's education, whether it's defence, whether it's housing. This is a team behind him that's determined to deliver on the promises that we made last year and to support a Prime Minister that's got a clear vision for a renewal of this country against division and decline at the opposition.
Will it be Keir in a year, Andy?
I think it's a coin toss. I really do. I think it's a 50-50. We know that the May elections are going to be an absolute disaster for Labour. Obviously, coming anything other than first in Wales for Labour is a massive failure, and they're going to come third unless there's a dramatic change of fortune.
After Reform and Plaid Cymru?
Yes, yeah, and at the moment I think it looks like Plaid are going to win and Reform are going to come second, but we'll see about that. So that's a disaster. If they lose a substantial number of seats at the locals, then obviously there's going to be a lot of chatter about replacing him. I think the biggest challenge for him is that his colleagues don't have confidence in him, and we know that anecdotally, we know that through the way cabinet ministers and others are briefing the press. You've got backbenchers who are openly questioning his leadership now.
Absolutely. Let's go to James in Staffordshire, who's given me a ring at 0344 499 1000. James, you're on with me, but also with Andy Williams as well. What would you like to say?
Merry Christmas, Peter.
Merry Christmas.
Hello, Andy, and yourself.
Hi, James.
Couple of three comments. The first one is that Labour lady who has been asked over Keir Starmer's...
Anna Turley, yeah.
Yeah, leadership. I'm with the Marx Brothers when I say there ain't no sanity clause.
Well, there is, of course, Father Christmas. He does exist, as we know, but...
no, as in sanity clause.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I'm aware of it. There's no such thing as a sanity clause. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Marx Brothers, let me tell you, James. But, I mean, when she says Keir Starmer is going to be here in a year's time, do you think that's realistic?
No, I've got more chance of being voted Slimmer of the Year and Miss World simultaneously, to be honest.
I'd vote for you for Miss World, James. What do you think of what Andy says?
Well, firstly,
what James says, Andy.
Sorry. Firstly, Anna Turley can't give any other answer to that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So we take that with a pinch of salt.
I enjoyed her Freudian slip when she said public services are on their knees. Are going to be great.
I mean, that's just if ever there was a sort of a neat encapsulation of the comms approach of this Labour government, that kind of sums it up. Look, I think the biggest thing Starmer has in his favour is it's the who's next question.
Yeah.
So until Burnham is in Parliament, I'm not taking that seriously. He has to get over that very significant hurdle first. There's also no guarantee that if he was given a seat, he'd win it.
Well, exactly. There's so many what-ifs. James, if I can go back to you just finally and say, is there any other leader of Labour you think could do a better job than Keir Starmer?
Actually, Peter, can I make one comment that I actually phoned in for?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Let's be honest, a donkey with a rosette probably did a better job than Starmer. But I don't know whether people have actually read the Greens manifesto or not, but candidly speaking, a coalition between the Magic Grandpas, Fruit and Nut Party, and the Boob Whisperer, etc., just terrifies. I mean, if people have read his manifesto, for a start-off, he wants to get rid of all fossil fuels, literally all, by 2040.
Doesn't Zara Sultana want to nationalise the economy?
Yes.
Yeah. And don't the Green Party want to abolish all landlords?
Yeah.
They just want to abolish landlords, abolish them.
Yeah, in fact, they want to abolish nuclear power.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see what the bill would be for nationalising Barclays.
Fuels. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Well, you're right, James. I mean, this is crazy stuff. But these people, they could, in theory, be part of the government, aren't they? What do you think?
The Greens could, in theory. I still think it's very unlikely. I think the good news, James, is that Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn's party is dead on arrival.
It's a shambles.
It's a shambles, and they had a window of opportunity, and actually the Greens have massively stepped into that void. So I think that's the good news.
James, thank you for all of that. Merry Christmas to you. Let's speak to Chris in Epsom, who has some points, not just for me, but for Andy as well. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, morning and Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you. Very good morning.
I've sat and read the ECHR, Section 8, and do you know there's only 12 rulings that have gone to the ECHR. The ECHR, yes, people keep pointing to it as a problem, but that is not the real problem. The real problem is our judiciary, is the tribunal judges. They are reading the law as they want. They're not using...
I think you're right in that they're interpreting the law. They're interpreting the ECHR. It's not necessarily about cases going all the way to the ECHR, to Strasbourg. It's a point, really, as Chris says there, about the interpretation, and that this is so so much into case law. It's not a panacea if we get rid of the ECHR, is it, Andy?
No, it's not, and that's why I think it's a misnomer, as sort of Chris alludes to suggest that leaving the ECHR would be a game changer. You know, one of the things that it's a trope of the right is that they say if we just leave this or slash this or bin this, everything will be fine, and it's not as simple as that.
It's not as simple as that, Chris, is it? What do you think should happen?
Well, I wonder, I mean, Andy's obviously not more knowledgeable than me, but I wonder, with the rules of the ECHR stating that the right for an Albanian to stay because his son can't go to Albania because there's no McDonald's and they only eat chicken nuggets, is ludicrous. You've got the sex attackers that are allowed to stay, the people that have dismissed their Pakistan passports as soon as they're going to go to court. There are rules, there are get-out clauses that say if you are a danger to society, if you are a danger to national security, if you are a burden financially, right?
So all of that, in your view, needs to come into it. Listen, we're just coming up to the 12 o'clock news. Chris, thanks for what you're saying there. I just want to get Andy's reaction to it.
Yeah, look, I think in terms of what Chris was saying about the judiciary there, my response is tricky. They are empowered to interpret the law, and I don't really know what you do about that. You know, we could go down the route of US-style elected,
politically appointed judges,
which I think is a really dangerous thing, and I would not want to replicate it here. So I understand why some people feel frustrated by the way things are working now, but I would say actually it's probably the best system we could possibly have.
Okay, Andy, thank you. Chris, thank you as well. Very Merry Christmas to you, Chris. And Andy, you going to have a nice Christmas? You going to be spending it with your family, or what's the plan?
Very much so. Heading down to my mum's place on Christmas Eve, spend 3 days there. Nice, relaxing break. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Well, listen, thanks for being a great contributor in 202025 and taking all the criticism, of course, as well.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Andy.
It's the most wonderful time.
Did not plan that one. There we go. Thanks to Tech Up Dave for that. Tech Up Dave actually coming up a little bit later on. He's making his much vaunted, much requested return to the airwaves. So he's going to be here with a little bit of Christmas cheer later on. But there's plenty more to discuss politically, of course, in the next hour. Nicole Lampert will be here in a second about the majority of Jews not feeling safe in Britain and this astonishing story of the West Midlands police chiefs being recalled to Parliament. We'll get all the Christmas travel as well if you're heading on, and I want your views on all the big issues of the day. 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you so much to everybody who has been in touch. I've just been looking through my tweets there. I'll read out a few of them in just a second. There's so much to talk about between now and 1 o'clock. We're going to have some Christmas cheer from Tech Up Dave coming your way as well. We'll talk about the transport situation with Simon Calder. Short version, it's not great. Lots of people trying to get away. Delays at Dover as well. And we'll talk about this story about the majority of Jews not feeling safe in Britain. It's hardly a shock given the disgusting levels of anti-Semitism that are happening. We'll also talk about the West Midlands Police and the nonsense that they're up to, telling Parliament incorrect things and being recalled. That's the first time in living memory that a senior police officer, both the Assistant Chief Constable and the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, being recalled. Nicole Lambert will take us through all of that. Loads to discuss. I want to get your voices on the air as well. Loads of people getting in touch. We'll take some more voice notes too. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 72222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Voice notes, as I mentioned, less than a minute, please. Tech Up Dave does go through them all. We'll play out as many as we can. You can send them in on the main number. The main number can also be used for WhatsApp text messages and for phone calls. 0344 499 1000. Loads to discuss between now and 1 o'clock. Stay with us here on Talk. And this is my last show before Christmas. I'm heading off to the Emerald Isle. Don't worry, Jack will be well looked after by his Auntie Annika, but I am heading off for a few days. I will be back on the 29th. That is Monday the 29th, so Monday week with the mid-morning shows, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday, and the breakfast show on the Thursday, on New Year's Day, actually. So I'm not a drinker, as you know, so I volunteered with the management to get up bright and early on New Year's Day and wish you a very happy 2026. And one person who's been a great commentator right throughout the year is Nicole Lambert. She's a journalist and campaigner as well, great campaigner against anti-Semitism. And Nicole, it's great to see you today and a very happy Hanukkah to you. But just some sad, a really horrible, sad headline because the campaign against anti-Semitism has done this excellent poll which suggests that anti-Semitism has left 61% of the Jewish community considering moving abroad, up from 50% last year. I hope you don't mind me mentioning that I know you have kids and they're growing up and they're thinking about what life they're going to have. One of them at university that you've posted on social media and so on. I mean, the question you must be asking as a mother is, do they stay in Britain? And that's the question so many mothers and fathers will be asking.
Well, exactly, and actually I did have a kind of big debate about this on my Facebook post with various other Jews and someone who did make Aliyah, who did move to Israel about 10 years ago, was like, come here, it's safer here. But the other feeling is you've had rocket attacks, you've had missile attacks, and your 3 children have all had to be in the army, where 1,000 soldiers have died. So it's not like it's safe there. It's not like it's safe anywhere. I mean, I should just say about the poll, it is, I'm not sure how mainstream it is, in that it's a kind of, set of people that care about anti-Semitism.
Yes, are going to respond to it. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I do think that probably most of us have seen there's been a ceasefire now for a couple of months and things have only got worse. Things become more extreme. We've had 2 people being killed on our streets, and we've obviously had Bondi. So it all just feels like, it doesn't feel like it's going to get any better. It feels like it's only going to get worse.
And actually, when you see the Parliament recalling these police chiefs from West Midlands Police and the Assistant Chief Constable, I was on air with you and I said, well, now they're saying that the threat is coming from the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, and you immediately said, without equivocation, without any hesitation, you simply said they're lying. And guess what? They were. We know so much more about this now, Nicole.
Yeah. It was lie after lie after lie, and that's the astonishing thing. And it's terrible. It's terrible for our country, for policing, that we can't trust our policemen not to lie. And I think we all suspect the reason they're lying, and that's the power of a community led by extremists, particularly the local MP, one of the MPs for Gaza, as they're nicknamed, who from the moment the draw was called, was demanding that it was called off. And the mere fact that 700 police officers were deployed, even though there were no Tel Aviv Maccabi fans there, shows that it was nothing to do with those fans. It was nothing to do. It was simply because they were Israelis, because they were Jews.
And the thing is, there are thugs who are part of Tel Aviv, Maccabi Tel Aviv, as there are thugs who are part of almost every football team, certainly at that level, at that high level. The point is that you can target those people individually. There's loads of intelligence about who these people are and who particular football thugs are. And the vast majority of people who are Maccabi Tel Aviv fans absolutely fine and would have gone to Aston Villa and had a nice night out at the game.
In essence, if that had been in almost any other city, the game would have gone ahead.
And we've seen that in other cities. We've seen that in cities since then. We've seen Maccabi Tel Aviv playing in different cities since then. And I mean, it's so transparent. Do you think that the chief constable or assistant chief constable can keep their jobs? Do you think? What should happen? Do you think?
I wish I knew who. I wish I had faith in our system, that our government would do anything, that anyone would take responsibility for what these problems are and who's responsible for them. But to do that, they would have to really look at the undercurrents in our country and come face to face with it. And I don't think they're prepared to do that. So I worry that there'll be some sort of commission and he'll keep his job and it will just all be brushed under the carpet, as so much has. So that's my biggest fear. And to go back to the first point we're talking about, I think we all just feel like, where are the grown-ups? Where are the people who are meant to be protecting us? And we feel that even more. These are police officers, and it should be said that while Greater Manchester and the Metropolitan Police have come out in the last few days and said we're going to ban calls to globalise the Intifada or anything to do with the Intifada, West Midlands Police have not said that. They refuse to say that.
And another police force I've asked that specific question is even on Somerset Police, who have been found wanting, and it is just 7 days until the deadline runs out as to when Bob Villan, frontman Pascal Robinson Foster, can be charged if he is to go to a magistrate's court on a public order offence with any public order offence in regard to shouting death, death to the IDF. It's now been 174 days since he chanted that. He's been interviewed. He hasn't been charged. The CPS are dragging their feet. Even on Somerset Police are dragging their feet. Sarah Crew is the Chief Constable of Avon and Somerset Police. We asked them for an update yesterday, day before yesterday. We got that update yesterday. They said inquiries are ongoing. I mean, you and I both know, Nicole, that in 7 days' time, the likelihood of Pascal Robinson Foster being charged with a public order offence is probably zero.
Yeah.
And the clock clock has been run down on this, absolutely shamefully.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I think it's partly down to the fact that the police, the government, the CPS, everyone's hand in hand, and they're all too frightened. So for example, just to go, if we look at last summer's riot, the summer before, where people are imprisoned for tweets and horrendous tweets, or Facebook posts, but there's not, and because maybe anti-Semitism is slightly more subtle and it's dressed up as anti-Zionism, that there's somehow it's seen as not as dangerous. But we've seen people being killed on our streets. We've seen much violence, and really it takes someone from the government to talk to the CPS and to talk to the police and say, right, this is becoming really dangerous for the Jewish community, but for everybody. What do we do about this? And we need a kind of joined up hands approach, and that's not happening. So this is the bigger issue. So yes, calling for the death of anyone, surely that should be an offence that should end up being with a charge. And the fact that it's taken so long, when it was in Glastonbury, it was hot. We're now about to approach Christmas, so it was more
it's stark. It's stark, isn't it? It's just like we saw it, everybody saw it, millions of people saw it. Really straightforward, clear case of anti-Semitism, calling for the deaths of thousands of people who happen to serve in the Israeli Defence Forces. Why can't you just arrest him? Why can't you just charge him? It's so straightforward. And even in Somerset Police and Sarah Crew, the Chief Constable, have ducked it so far. Maybe it's the CPS's fault, I don't know, but they've a week to get their act together. If we're sitting here, if perhaps, I don't know what your plans are over the next few days, but I'll be on the 29th and I will be making a big noise about this if he's not charged. And maybe you can be part of that, Nicole, as you have been brilliantly for so long, but particularly this year. Thank you so much. Happy Hanukkah to you. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
And I'll see you soon. That's Nicole Lambert, absolute hero of mine, journalist and campaigner against anti-Semitism. Thank you to Sean, who says, when will Labour reveal details of an enabling act to Parliament? They're already following the National Socialist blueprint of 1933. Sean, I think that's a bit much. Where is the outrage from Gary Lineker? Says Sean. You're entitled to your opinion, Sean, but I'm always really wary of comparisons to the Nazis. I just think, Keir Starmer is not Hitler. He's many things, but he's not Hitler. Peter, Conservatives love to blame record debt and taxes on the COVID pandemic. No, the cause was the COVID pandemic response, which was entirely their responsibility. Margaret in Birmingham says, morning Peter, why do these MPs come out with the same rubbish? They're all programmed to say all this word salad. Why don't they sit around a table and stop another 700 migrants? Says Margaret in Birmingham, who wishes me a happy Christmas. Margaret, thank you. Thanks for your Christmas card as well, both to me, and you sent another Christmas card to the office and all the staff behind the scenes as well. Very, very kind of you and very much appreciated. Daniel is in Shropshire and has some thoughts. 0344 499 1000. Daniel, you're on the air. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter.
Hi there.
Since October the 7th, we have seen constant pro-Palestine protests. But just to give you some context here, I've got two statements here. One is from the Jewish Chronicle in July of this year, and one is from Campaign Against Anti-Semitism from October this year after the horrific attack in Manchester.
Yeah.
The one from the Jewish Chronicle states, the impetus of anti-Semitism is no longer a concern of the far right. It has now been normalised among teachers, doctors, artists and surgeons, and the impetus comes from the far left and Islamists. The second one from Campaign Against Anti-Semitism after that horrific attack in Manchester states that the government has deliberately ignored far left extremists and Islamists. Yet when have you heard one politician at all in the past 3-4 years mention the words far left extremism?
Yeah. Well, listen, we know what it is. We can see it. It's really, really straightforward. It's so obvious that that's there. But I totally agree with you, Daniel. They're afraid. They're absolutely afraid. Keir Starmer is afraid of your party. He's afraid of the Green Party. He's afraid of many people on the left and some on the far left, well, many on the far left, as you correctly identify, who would say this stuff, who believe this stuff. And this is now mainstream. We've seen surveys, 1 in 5 people think that some level of anti-Semitism is all right. We have people, I bang on about this all the time, people who would never dream of using the N-word, making a racist statement, talking about women derogatorily, talking about black people, Asian people, gay people, whatever. But it's fine to criticise Jews because that's just criticism of Israel. It's fine to slag off Jews and say, oh yeah, they're all a bit rich and greedy and, they're controlling the media or they're doing this, that, the other. These anti-Semitic tropes that happen all the time, they're disgraceful. We can see it. And it's time, as you correctly say, Daniel, for our politicians to start telling the truth and calling it out.
But what I don't understand is this. I've got a couple more examples. This is from the Socialist Workers' Party, the day after October the 7th. A statement directly from them, and it's still on their website to this day. We unconditionally support Hamas in all military and civilian actions against Israel. I've got another one here. I've got a video on my Twitter which came across last night of the Revolutionary Communist Party, which is a countrywide university group, chanting an entire auditorium of them chanting "Long live the Intifada."
Yeah. And that terrifies me. That terrifies me, Daniel, because if you say "Long live the Intifada" or "Globalise the Intifada," well, we've seen that. That happened. That happened last weekend. That happened in Bondi. That's what happened.
But why will... I mean, even Michael Gove called out the SWP for having links to Islamists.
Yeah.
Why will not one politician, not even Reform, will dare utter the words far left extremism?
Look, all these points are absolutely correct, Daniel, and I really appreciate them, and thank you for them, and a happy Christmas and happy Hanukkah to you. John is in Dorset and wants to talk about the Conservative Party. John, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Yes, Peter. I joined the Conservatives in 1968. I was born in 1944 and into a hardcore Labour household, you know, Reynolds News, Co-op Fate, Vic Feather and The Great and Good. And I saw what was happening to the country. I was a 24-year-old soldier. There was parallels in 68 with what's happening now. There's an economic crisis and austerity backlash, trade unions versus government. Barbara Castle, do you remember, in place of strife? She was going to curb wildcat strikes. Immigration and race politics exploded. Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood, talking about how badly Labour had misjudged public sentiment on immigration. Student unrest and cultural revolt and foreign policy embarrassment. Do you remember the Vietnam War? We didn't support the US,
That's right. Yeah.
which upset Washington, and the left wanted outright opposition. So really, I mean, the bottom line is that 1968 showed Labour losing control of its coalition of unions, workers, students and moderates. All
it was only a few years later that was asked who governs Britain. So how do you feel about the Conservatives now, John? How do you feel about that party?
Well, as I said to your producer, 3 years ago I was about to play golf, and for my sins I just had a quick look at LBC, and there was Tobias Ellwood. Now, he was saying that people like me were the right wing of the party. 54 years membership, paid my subscription, active in constituency fundraising, and suddenly I'm the right wing of the party. And I don't think it was me leaving the party, it was the party leaving me. And why I would have preferred, while I was still a Conservative, Kemi instead of Liz Truss, because I always felt Liz Truss was a bit of an airhead. But having said that, they put Truss in. Now, the irony of it is that I'm not right-wing. I mean, I'm an 81-year-old veteran in the army, and all I see here in the Conservatives, I like Kemi Badenoch, and I think she's improved her performance. But I see a bunch of One Nation Tories, and they're not going to change. She's inherited a football team which are no longer a Premier League team.
Do you think that there's some in her cabinet, like people like Robert Jenrick, who are more less One Nation and maybe more leaning towards what Reform UK do, for example?
Well, I don't think Robert Jenrick is at all leaning towards what Reform wants. I think Robert Jenrick's out for what Robert Jenrick wants. I wish him no harm. I think he's, you know, he's a good speaker, and he's got the stones. You know, he went out to the camps and he's made himself unpopular. It's okay, good PR. But the fact is that he was a Remainer at the time, and I know you have affection for Theresa May, but I felt she let us down very badly on Brexit.
Well, lots of people have been criticising me for that, certainly, and that's okay. It's fine to disagree.
It's not a criticism.
No, you're not criticising me. I'm saying there are others who are. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so how do you think you'll vote then? What do you think you'll do in 3 years' time?
I shall vote you Reform. I mean, I've been in Reform for 3 years now. We've got quite an active membership. And I know quite a lot of other people in Dorset, West Dorset, who are Conservatives like me, who are in Reform. I mean, our membership's growing in Dorset. In West Dorset, we have 3 branches, and it's... And people want to change. I don't think you should focus on individuals. I mean, it's not about Nigel Farage or Kemi Badenoch or Zach Polanski or Keir Starmer. I mean, the bottom line is they're just names, and polls don't mean a lot. Polls are opinions, and
they're a snapshot, aren't they? John, listen, thanks. Really interesting to talk to you. Thanks for your service to our country as well. I really appreciate that, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas.
And you too, Peter.
Thanks, John. Really good to talk to John in Dorset there. We're going to talk to Simon Calder in a second, the travel guru. If you're trying to get away for Christmas, you're going to want to hear what he has to say. We also have Tech Up Dave coming up, which is very exciting. His return to the airwaves to wish us some Christmas cheer. That will happen before 1 o'clock. And we'll take plenty more of your calls, texts, tweets and voice notes too. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
If you're heading off for Christmas, as I am later today, well, you're going to want to hear the wise words of Simon Calder, the travel correspondent for The Independent. Simon, hello. Where are you and where are we?
Okay, Peter, very nice to talk to you. I am at London Waterloo Station. It is incredibly busy. Lots of people just coming into the capital, do some shopping, see a show, have a meal or whatever, but also some setting off on their great getaways. And that picture is repeated really right across the country. For a Sunday, it's very, very busy. Tomorrow is likely to be even busier because there are still some people who are going to be at work commuting normally over the next few days, but where we are seeing the real problems on the railways are on cross country, which is the network, as you know, connecting England, Wales and Scotland through its hub in Birmingham New Street. Dozens and dozens of cancellations and curtailments of trains today due to a staff shortage of train drivers. I've just got a statement in from cross country. They say, we're sorry to customers affected by a higher level of cancellations today due to reduced crew availability, including a high level of sickness. And that's pretty much the same as passengers on northern trains are being told as well. This is the network that basically runs all the services across the north of England that aren't run by Transpennine Express, and they are also facing cancellations due to shortage of train crew, I think triggered by higher than usual levels of sickness. So if you're on a train, well, the chances are you're probably going to get there, but watch out for those two operators. On the roads, well, we had big problems yesterday, actually, at Dover, people catching ferries. That was due to the French having a bit of a meltdown on the old IT front, because, as you know, there are people who are being checked as you leave Dover. As a result of that, they are basically just that they were having massive problems, which got sorted out eventually. Today, there's been a bit of a wait. Things are clearing up there now in terms of crossing the border. And the only other ferry problems, there's a couple of lines in the Caledonian McBrain network in Western Scotland, which are seeing a few delays and cancellations. But can I take you to the airport?
You can, of course. You can take me to Heathrow, first of all, for and flights across the Irish Sea later on today would be the priority, I think, Simon.
Yeah, look, they're mostly going pretty well. It's marvellous to be able to report that at the airports, which actually are having some of their busiest days, particularly today. It's, for instance, busiest day at places like Bristol Airport, seems to be coping very well. Heathrow working fantastically efficiently. It's one of several airports that has its biggest ever Christmas. That also includes Birmingham and Manchester. And what you'll find is that there's few people who are going to be held up getting into Luton and Gatwick. The late night flight last night from Hurghada in Egypt to Luton was diverted to Athens because of, quote, a passenger welfare issue. They couldn't continue the journey. The crew had run out of hours. So everyone's having an unusual, unexpected day in the Greek capital. They will arrive about tea time tonight. And if you were coming in from New York or meeting somebody coming in from New York to Gatwick, that flight delayed by about 6 hours. And the outbound flight to New York JFK also delayed. But honestly, you and I have talked at this stage just 4 days before Christmas before, and it's all looked an awful lot worse than things are at the moment.
Simon, will you be making a rare visit to the United Kingdom for Christmas this year, or where are you spending it?
Look, no, I don't, as you know, Peter, do any work really during the year. It's just at Christmas when everybody is invested in their journeys, really keen to get somewhere. That's when you also tend to get lots of problems. So I report on those, and then in the new year, I'm off to Benidorm.
Marvellous. I love it. You can put your feet up and have a little break there. Simon, Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for that update. Really appreciate it. Simon Calder, their travel correspondent for The Independent. Thanks to everybody who's been in touch as well. Mick says the British public must come to terms that we have a politically captured police and they do not give a monkeys about crime and public safety. Rowley will get his peerage. Happy Christmas. Stay safe. Mick, thank you for that. I mean, in fairness to Mark Rowley, Sir Mark Rowley, who I have been very critical of at various points, he has finally come to the point where he agrees with the rest of us, sensible people, that Globalise the Intifada is a horrible, insightful thing to say and people should be arrested for it. So let's praise him, I suppose, for that. But I think, Mick, the thrust of what you're saying about political policing is a really, really big problem, and you're right to highlight it. Thank you to Lizzie in Telford, who says, "Hi, Cardi B. This is way off the focus of your show. That's fine. No problem at all. You can tell us whatever you like. Almost 3 years ago, I heard on Talk about an online mental health charity called My Black Dog. I've been volunteering since that time. Tonight we have our last shift as the charity is closing like many other small charities due to a lack of funds. This is tragic. Our guests constantly tell us about the dearth of mental health support. Why don't the government step in? Surely it is more cost effective to have appropriately trained volunteers able to listen. Thank you and Merry Christmas for some." Lizzie, thank you for that. Good for you for volunteering, and I hope there are other organisations you can volunteer with. I'm really sorry to hear that about My Black Dog. That is, mental health support is a really, really big thing. It's really lacking in our country, and there are people who really, really need it. And thank you for volunteering there. It's very, very sad to hear so many people, as you correctly say, so many charities, so many small organisations in that same situation because of things, red tape, and the fact that it's very, very difficult to sustain them. Catherine in Cardiff says, "Just want to wish you a very happy Christmas. You're now an intrinsic..." Oh gosh, this is very nice. "You're now an intrinsic part of Talk. I love your shows. Although I'm not Jewish, I stand 100% with Israel and the Jewish people, and so admire your stance on the subject of the atrocities committed on the 7th of October and subsequently. May God bless you," says Catherine in Cardiff. Catherine, what a lovely message. Thank you very much. Peter says, "I'm a Christian and I initiated my Jewish friend into Freemasonry 15 years ago. This friend is now organising to move out of the country because he said it is now unrecognisable and feels it's unsafe for him. I've updated you from the Jewish community in Golders Green, so many are looking to move, which means you will lose some of the most wonderful people in our country, both professionally and socially," says Peter. Another Peter says, "Happy Christmas and a good job in your political commentary, second to none." That's very, very kind. Thank you. I'll try not to read out too many of those messages, otherwise my head will expand even further than it is, and I do have quite a large head. Nick says from Westgate-on-Sea, "I love Yehoshua, also known as Jesus, in religious circles and God, but feel no desire to call myself religious or even Christian. I'm neither, yet have a very strong faith. People help me understand why people need to identify as Jewish, Muslim. Please help me understand why people need to identify as Jewish, Muslim, Christian to have their faith. It is and can only ever be a personal thing between the individual and God. This is a genuine question, not to stir anything up. God bless you and your listeners to hear these words." Very interesting thought, especially at this time of the year, Nick, so thank you for that. Betty says, "Here we go now, as Andy says, if you don't follow their view, you're stupid to vote. Sad thing is, some of the lunatics will inherit all the apparatus from Labour to create the society they fear the most," says Betty. Well, that is quite a serious and perhaps sad note to talk on, but we're going to put a smile on our face because it is the return of Tech Up Dave. He will be in the studio next with some Christmas cheer, and I, for one, want to hear about the world's first lickable pigs in blankets wrapping paper. Stay tuned here on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, on the 5th of January, as you've been hearing there, Jeremy Kyle will have his very own breakfast show. He is the new breakfast presenter here, 4 days a week, the Jeremy Kyle breakfast show from Monday to Thursday. I hope to be part of that in some way from time to time as well. And of course, Mark Dolan, as he announced today, will be doing Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays. So that's your breakfast lineup, 7 days a week here on Talk from the 5th of January. There are lots of jiggery pokery, of course, around the new year. Got the return of some welcome faces who perhaps you haven't heard from very much recently, but Nick Dubois will be back at various points. Duncan Barks, Johnny Gould as well is going to be here, and of course some of our usual presenters as well. Kevin O'Sullivan's doing breakfast next week, for example, and although we have lots of pre-recorded programmes on Christmas Day, including at 11 o'clock on Christmas Day, there's going to be the best of Peter Cardwell, so that'll be a full 90 seconds. No, it's apparently an hour, so there we are. And all of this is because it is...
It's the most wonderful time of the year, with the kids jingle belling and everyone telling you be a...
Okay, you get the idea. Anyway, because it's the most wonderful time of the year, we have invited Tech Up Dave back into the studio. Hello, sir.
Hello.
It's been...
Let me in.
They've let you in. It's been far too long without you here. The demise of Cat of the Week was the slight demise of your time, but Cat of the Week was marvellous. But 100 episodes, we felt it.
100 cats.
100 cats. Perhaps slightly,
probably too many.
Perhaps slightly run its course, but it was a wonderful thing. Yes. How are you doing? How's life?
Yeah, not too bad.
I mean, I see you all the time, but the viewers and listeners don't.
I just sort of run around and I'm here in the middle of the night and things.
Yes, you're dwelling in the wee hours as well. You're doing some stuff for Talk Sport.
I hang out with Talk Sport and Paul Ross.
Paul Ross is great, isn't he?
He's great fun. You've been on a couple of times.
I've been on a couple of times. I do love a bit of Paul Ross. Yeah. It was funny when he interviewed me about. I don't know if you know. I wrote a book this year. I don't know, sort of...
This wouldn't be called Political Animals. Available in all good bookstores.
And on Amazon and on petercardwell.com. But yeah, I kept it under wraps as much as possible. But Paul's one of those people who... I mean, I've been interviewed by lots and lots of different people. And I'm not sure any of them had actually read the whole book, which is fine because, look, I interview authors. Sometimes I read bits of it. I read a summation. I read maybe the first chapter and the last chapter. You're not going to read the whole thing. No. Paul reads like 3 books a week or something. He'd read the whole book.
He's amazing. He just reads and reads and reads. I mean, he gets... I see the emails coming in from him going, can you get this book? Can you get this book? Can you get this book?
He gave me a book the other day as well that he'd read. He said, I think you'd like this, Peter, and he left it for me, which is really nice.
And he is a font of all knowledge and he's got so much experience. He's
a great
fun
guy.
To work with.
So he's on between 1 and 6?
He's on between 1 and 5.
1 and 5.
On a Monday through Friday, but I am only there on a Friday morning.
Okay, great stuff. Well, listen, bring us some Christmas cheer. Tell us about the history of Christmas crackers.
The history of Christmas crackers. They were invented in 1840 by a guy by the name of Tom Smith in London. He was inspired by the French bonbon sweets, but rather than having a sweet in them, he put a little thing that popped.
Yes,
and
crack.
And he was inspired on that front by his log fire burning happily in the corner of the room. And then he started adding like a little motto and some jokes and some small gifts and turned them into festive Christmas crackers that we know. And in 1847, then his kids got involved and put the jokes in. And we like a good Christmas cracker joke, don't we?
We do. Have you got some
I have
absolutely terrible ones? It should be said that Tom Smith's name is apparently still on all the boxes for Christmas crackers. Well, he invented them.
Well, yeah, I suppose so.
Tell me some rubbish Christmas cracker jokes.
Why do I love gravy so much?
Why do you love gravy so much?
It's my main source of affection.
I see you did there. Very good.
What did the gravy say to the mashed potatoes?
What did the gravy say to the mashed potatoes?
You are appealing.
Ah, like it.
How do mashed potatoes travel?
Tell me.
Gravy train.
The gravy train, I like it. Actually, speaking of gravy,
yes,
it is National Gravy Day.
It is indeed.
Is this actually a thing, or is it just a very thinly veiled marketing promotion coming up to Christmas?
I thought it was a very thinly veiled marketing promotion. However, it's not. And if you're in Australia, you know all about Gravy Day.
Right.
Because it commemorates apparently a rather terrible Christmas song by Paul Kelly.
Right.
Called how to make gravy. It is available if you go and have a look on YouTube after 1 o'clock.
Okay, I'm not sure I should.
Anyway, this song apparently is based on, or it mentions the date of December the 21st, and therefore it becomes gravy. But of course, as we're completely gravy mad in this country, and
yes,
gravy is...
I'm not a big fan of gravy, controversially. I'm just not really. I can live without it. I can live without it.
Well, that's not very good. But anyway, the WaterAid people this year have looked into gravy. Do you know how much water there is in gravy?
Tell me.
Or in your Christmas lunch?
Tell me.
For an average meal for 4 people, they reckon it has a water footprint of 15,000 litres of water.
Right.
Which will fill 125 bathtubs.
So, interestingly, this is one of the weirdest things I think I'm probably ever going to say on air, but amongst many. So it wasn't quite WaterAid, but it was one of those kind of organisations, I remember. Part of my journalism training was to do a deadline story, and literally 9 o'clock in the morning they give you a press release or say go to this event or do this thing, and by 5 o'clock in the evening you've got to have 500 words written on it or whatever. And it could be anything. It could be a court story, it could be a political story, it could be anything. So I did this in my journalism training. I was in New York, and I did this deadline class. And one of the things they said was this water charity that said, if you have meat, or if you have a dinner with meat in it or whatever, there's this amount of water. And the way they publicised it was in Times Square.
Right.
They had a makeshift shower, which was literally like the shower apparatus with like a sort of bag, almost like an in vitro IV bag with water in it. And these 2 women were there wearing not very much, with basically flesh-coloured pants and little kind of plasters over their nipples, and I had to interview them.
Right.
And then the naked cowboy came along and gave his opinion.
I've seen him in New York.
Yeah, well,
he's still around.
It was quite weird because they were just like, oh yeah, I think it was PETA. It was people for the ethical treatment of animals, not as their website was once hacked and someone changed it to people eating tasty animals, which was not very nice. Anyway, they talked about the level of water it takes, and according to WaterAid, and people will dispute this, I'm sure, 125 bathtubs for a festive meal for 4, and turkey, of course, turkeys have to be fed 271 litres per serving. Of course, they all want us to not eat turkey, maybe not WaterAid, but other people as well. They have pointed out that an £11 donation, which is the cost of a Christmas meal, can fund a tap stand for a family in Madagascar. Let's talk a little bit now as well about Aldi launching the world's first lickable pigs in blankets wrapping paper. Just when you thought you had everything you needed for Christmas. Yes.
Aldi come out with this. This is genius. It's the world's first lickable pigs in blankets wrapping paper.
Yes.
So it looks, funnily enough, it's light pink, and it has pictures of pigs in blankets on it.
Have you licked it?
No. I haven't even laid hands on a roll.
Right.
So
okay. And also, if you touch it, I mean, if you give your
apparently
fingers,
it's got stickers that you peel back, and then that reveals the unique lickable experience. I remember the scratch things you used to get when I was a kid, and
surreal.
Scratch and sniff, but never peel and lick.
Aldi say it captures the smoky, savoury flavour and smell of the festive treat, with stickers that peel back to reveal a truly unique, lickable experience. The novelty wrapping paper not only tastes and smells like delicious pigs in blankets, it also looks charming on presents with this pastel pink design, festive holly and snowflake patterns. Will you be sending your Christmas presents with lickable pigs in blankets wrapping paper, Dave?
No.
Okay. Final story from you about Cuthbert. Tell us about Cuthbert.
Well, back in Aldi again.
Are you a spokesman for Aldi?
I think I should be.
Are Aldi paying you?
No.
Are you part of Big Aldi?
Please pay me. Yes, you remember the problem with Cuthbert, their chocolate roll caterpillar?
Yes.
And how Marks and Spencer's decided to sue them over the infringing on Colin, the Marks and Spencer's chocolate cat. Well, Aldi this year have sent a little present round.
Right, okay, yes.
So, 8 foot tall, 12 foot long, on the back of a low loader, a rather large Cuthbert, the Aldi chocolate, it was a model, was parked up outside Marks and Spencer's in Brighton a couple of days ago. And will be residing out... Oh, it's now gone. It was Oh no, it's still there. If you happen to be in Eastbourne on Pacific Drive,
right.
Apparently they've parked Cuthbert up down there.
Do you get free cake though? That's what I want to know.
I don't know, but it's proper Christmas behaviour, isn't it?
It certainly is. Trolling around Christmas.
Let's troll the other supermarkets. Well done.
Speaking of things that people might be slightly annoyed about, you tend to slightly get a little bit tetchy if people send in the old voice notes at over a minute. We don't want you to be tetchy up, Dave.
No.
Can you just make an appeal at Christmas? If you're sending in a voice note, and we love voice notes, and we're going to play a couple of them out of the break actually, because you've set them up already. Tell me, make an appeal to the nation on the voice notes that you so diligently listen to every single week on my programme.
We get lots and lots of voice notes come in. And
we appreciate them all.
We appreciate them all. I mean, there was one this morning, the first one that came in after you started and said, oh, please send a voice note. Less than 60 seconds. 2 minutes 15.
Right.
Now, I have to try and listen to these and make sure that they're okay and we can play them out. And the sound quality on some we have to drop because they're not very good. But 2 minutes 15 is quite a long time.
So if we keep them to less than a minute...
keep them to less than a minute, they're the ones I can go through really quickly and get them all lined up.
And get as many as possible on the air. And we sometimes do. We do a voice note-orama.
Exactly.
We sometimes do like 5, 6, 7 in a row and get them all sent out there.
But if they're longer than a minute, like 2 minutes, it's a bit of a car crash.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that. Well, Dave, thank you. Thanks for everything this year. You're a great man, great colleague, great friend.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Have a good one.
Yes,
and,
indeed.
I will. Well, they're keeping us apart to start.
They are.
The new
They
year,
are. Yeah.
But we will meet.
You're not teching up me for a while. It's a couple of weeks, is it?
Saturday the 3rd, I think we're back together.
Well, I wish you well. And you're off on Christmas Day?
Yes. I'm not here Christmas Day or New Year's Day. It's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle.
That's it. Well, you are a Christmas miracle. You're my best mate at work, and I really, really appreciate all you do behind the scenes. And wish you a very Merry Christmas, Dave.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Great stuff. That is Tech Up Dave, the man, the legend. Glenn says, Peter, how dare you live without gravy? That is all. Says Glenn. I could live without gravy. I've just never been a huge fan of it. It's fine. It's nice. It's okay. But I can just live without it. Anyway, listen. Lots more to discuss, whether it's about gravy, whether it's about the Conservatives, whether it's about Theresa May. Someone says, how can you possibly back her? We'll talk about that in a second. We'll take some more calls, texts, tweets and voice notes. Tech Up Dave is back at his seat behind the glass. He's gone into the control room, and for the next 13 minutes, right up to 1 o'clock, we will hear from you. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right then, let's have a couple of those aforementioned voice notes. Let's hear one from Ian.
Hi Peter, it's Ian from East Grinstead. Your Conservative James, he made the comment they should be proud of what the Tories have achieved. Could he name one thing since the 14 years in power? Could he just name one thing that they've achieved? They've achieved massive tax burdens, massive government regulation, increase in the benefits bill, massive migration, both legal and illegal, running down of the armed forces, net zero rubbish. What exactly have they achieved that's made the lives of people in the UK, the working person, better?
Thank you very much indeed for that, Ian. Let's hear from Perry.
Morning, Peter. I don't know how you say you can agree with Theresa May. She cut policing and said that you can nick up to £200 worth of stuff before getting prosecuted. How on earth can you stick up for a leader like that? That's legalised robbery and shoplifting for up to 200 quid. How can you stick up for someone that made that legal?
Perry, thanks for that. Listen, I do not agree with every single thing that Theresa May has done, said. I don't believe that getting rid of all those police officers was the right thing, and that's led to what Perry's talking about. I don't agree with her now on net zero, for example. What I do think, and I understand this is a really unpopular view, and I worked in her administration for 3 years. I think she's someone who cares. I think she's an adult. I think she tried really hard to run this country as well as she could. I am loyal to Theresa May. I do think that there are things I can criticise her for. I have done that in the last few seconds. But overall, I think in terms of integrity, in terms of someone who tried to run this country as well as she could, she is the greatest living Prime Minister that we've had in this country. I know you're going to disagree with that, many people are, but on my programme we disagree without being disagreeable. I want to speak to Mark in Lincolnshire, who has given me a ring, 0344 499 1000. Mark, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi there, Peter.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
Hiya. Yeah, not so bad. Happy Christmas to everybody, and yourself and everyone at Talk. And also, if you don't mind, I just want to say thank you and happy Christmas to obviously yourself, because you sent me a card, which is really lovely. Thank you. Angie, Debs, and Jason in the Lakes.
Oh, brilliant! They sent you cards as well. Excellent stuff.
They did, yeah.
Well, that's lovely. And Mark, are you spending Christmas by yourself this year?
Yes, obviously I am. That's my situation.
But you're doing okay? You're doing well?
Yeah, I'm not so bad. Plodding on. I have my moments, obviously.
We know, of course, that we spoke last year about Christmas cards, and you've got a few there. So there are many people, of course, who won't have sent you one, who will wish you a very, very happy Christmas. You're a very valued caller to this station, Mark, even when we disagree, which we sometimes do. Maybe we'll disagree now, but that doesn't matter because you're a great guy and we appreciate your contributions. So, Mark, just tell me what's on your mind today.
What's on my mind today? Just really quickly, about as quick as I can, really. It's just the rise of ethno-nationalism. That's kind of what's been going through my head. Just what I think the reason for it is. It's certainly why why I've become much more of an ethno-nationalist. There seems to be quite a movement for a 90-10 split, so 90% white British majority, the 10% whoever really, people that need to come here, whatever. And I think that's a few things going on with this, and that is because I believe that we need a strong native majority to basically ensure the country remains the same as it is, that the people that want to come here, the whole reason why they want to come here, essentially.
So is your view, Mark, that there should be a sort of 90-10 split in terms of ethnicity? Is that what you're saying?
Essentially, yes.
And why do you come up with that figure necessarily? Because it's not a million miles away from that, actually, because it's about 81% of people are kind of white British in this country. When you add in white people from other countries, it goes up to about 85%. So it's not a million miles away from what you're saying.
I'm not sure where you're getting your statistics from, Peter.
The census, that's what the census says.
In later studies, the white British majority, the actual natives, are around about 70%.
Okay, well, that's not what the census says.
There are a lot of white people in the country, but then again, we have a fairly large number of East Europeans as well.
Yeah, well, they're part of it too.
Well,
yeah, okay.
But the reality is, and the reason why I think this is on the rise, and I do apologise for hearing cats screaming.
That's all right. That's okay. That's all right.
It's lunchtime, you see.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's it.
So yeah, I mean, I think that we have a situation where we have, for example, you've got David Lammy. Tipsy, shut up.
Make your point on David Lammy. Got to go to another caller, but make a final point, Mark, if you wouldn't mind.
David Lammy, who's getting rid of jury trials and the automatic right to appeal. We have a country where we have, for example, there are a lot of now, for example, Muslim judges. Now, I no longer have the right, if I say something as I often do on...
If someone is a Muslim judge, what does that matter? Do you think that do you not think they're interpreting the law correctly?
The problem is, Peter, how can I have faith in a system where we know that we have such things coming through as Islamophobia? So if I theologically criticise Islam, find myself with a knock at the door, get arrested, get charged, I then go before a judge who happens to be a Muslim, I'm a Christian, are you telling me there is absolutely no way whatsoever that he will in any way be influenced by what I say?
I'm not saying that at all, Mark, but I'm saying that most judges anyway, what they want to do and what they're charged to do, and if they don't do that, you could appeal it and that wouldn't be fair. Mark, we'll leave it there because I just want to go to Gary in Leicestershire because we only have a couple of minutes of the programme left. Gary, just briefly, if you wouldn't mind, if you could make your point. You're very welcome to the show.
Yeah, mate, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas
to you. It's a safe trip over the water.
Thank you.
Very frustrated today. We've had some total misrepresentation of reform policies by some of your experts. I'll put that in inverted commas. I know you've got to get them on to get some balance, but that woman you had on, whose name escapes me, I would normally like, is she a psychologist or something like
Lucy Beresford, psychotherapist, yeah. So what did she say that you disagreed with, Gary?
Reform. Far left economic policies. That's all she just spouted it. It was a catchphrase. Far left. They're not far left. They're not far left. It's just a phrase. You want to come back to me on that, don't you?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I can't remember exactly what she said, but Gary, I'm sure your memory is right. But the point is that they are, in some ways, they're sort of right wing in some way, and some things left wing, maybe a bit more on economics, not necessarily far left. But the point, I suppose, Gary, is left and right don't really mean very much anymore when it comes to reform because they're doing something different, aren't they?
Absolutely nailed it. And I just think sometimes people need to be picked up on the lazy yesterday politics phrasing because not on your show, but on Mark Dolan's show, which was great again. They had a chap on, gay guy. Nigel Farage wants to get rid of gay marriage.
No, he doesn't.
That's what he said.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. The chairman of Reform UK is David Bill, an openly gay man, for goodness sake. Like, what? Do you think David Bill would be in Reform UK if Nigel Farage wanted to get rid of gay marriage?
I think that's exactly the point. You know it and I know it.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
He said it.
We got to combat all this, Gary. And listen, thank you for your call. I really appreciate it. We got to combat it this year and in 2026 as well. Let's get the truth out there. Let's tell the truth and tell things like they are here at the home of common sense. Neil says, Theresa May, have you gone stark raving mad? May delayed Brexit for years and years. You cannot honestly think May was better than Thatcher. Neil in Broken Wheels. Oh, happy Christmas and a great new year. I didn't say she was better than Thatcher. I said she's our best living former Prime Minister, Neil. So I'm absolutely not saying she's better than Thatcher. Michelle says, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. It's been a rough year. I hope 2026 brings some relief, says Michelle. I hope so too. Chris says, I'd love to know what your highs and lows are of the best of Peter Cardwell. One of your highlights has got to be interviewing Keir Starmer in somebody's kitchen. Well, perhaps that'll be in there. I don't know. Mick in Dorset says, I'm in the gym sweating buckets listening to you and being motivated in the hope things will get better. I fought against racism since 1973. I have the scars to prove it. However, we're losing the battle as not all racism has been beaten until we stamp it out. Anti-Semitism, the left are making it grow. Michael, you're an inspiration, not at least on your combating of anti-Semitism, but also being in the gym, which is something I need to certainly do in 2026. Simon Calder delays at Dover due to technical issues of people leaving the UK, but illegals can come to the UK on dinghies without any problem. Mark says the level of sick and holiday fraud in our public sector off the charts. My wife is a magistrate and works in A&E. I can assure you the nation is losing billions. And thanks to everybody